Well, hello, and welcome to a very last-minute slow chat. I didn't think I was going to have time for this today. Some things went really wrong. Some things went really freaking wrong today. But you know what? During dinner, I was on my phone during dinner. Yes, the cardinal sin. I'm not supposed to do that. But things finally it's not that they went right, but a solution revealed itself to the problem that I've been beating my head against a brick wall about all day. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to have to spend my entire evening on that. But what is important is to talk about what's coming up on Saturday. So you know what? I'm going to do a slow chat. I'm going to talk about what's coming up on Saturday. I'm going to talk about the role that you can play in this really, really pivotal moment in Victorian history. And of course, it's a slow chat. So I am going to decompress and unwind and de-stress a little bit while we do that. So I, of course, have my usual companion for a de-stress. In this case, I have a Romeo and Julieta, and this is a Churchill Reserve. Now, Romeo and Juliet are one of the many brands, there's quite a few like this, that are actually two different companies, one in Cuba producing Cuban cigars and one outside of Cuba producing non-Cuban cigars. And that happened because of the US embargo on Cuban tobacco. And they didn't want to lose access to the US market. So the Cuban companies and the government-owned companies in Cuba started spin-off divisions with the same name outside of Cuba, and that's what this is. So this is not a Cuban cigar. It is a Romeo and Julieta. It is a very good cigar and nice and big. Should be enjoyable. And this was a donation from a supporter. I do appreciate your support. You know who you are. It was part of a care package of a number of cigars that was sent to me by this supporter to help me get through and stay sane whilst making the documentary. So thank you very much to you. And all of you benefit from that tonight because I'm going to enjoy smoking this and staying sane while I kind of brief you guys, I guess. My focus tonight is Saturday and what's coming up on Saturday. But to understand, I think it would be beneficial for a lot more people to understand the unseen aspects of these protests and of these events as they're becoming, I mean, they are protests, absolutely, but now that the police have stopped shooting at us, they're becoming almost events, concerts, parties. I almost don't know what to call them. Like, they're amazing. The vibe is just phenomenal. And it's one of those things, if you weren't there last week, you've got to get there this week. You cannot grow old looking back on this moment in history, wondering what it felt like to be there. Don't do that to yourself. Get there. Experience the vibe, because I am telling you, that vibe that we had on Saturday just past was unlike anything I have ever felt before. I have been at the MCG for Anzac Day footy matches. I have been at the MCG for Boxing Day cricket. I have been at the MCG for blockbuster international T20 matches. I've heard that crowd. I know what that feels like when you don't hear it so much as feel it in your chest. And yet, what I experienced on Saturday was better. It was better. It wasn't just on the same level, it was better. Because the people there were there for a different reason. They weren't idolizing a couple of sports heroes or celebrating, oh yeah, you hit the ball a really long way. Well done, you. They were there crying from the very depths of their being for freedom. And that is a sound that you do not get any other way. If you missed last Saturday, don't miss this Saturday. Fill up the car. Get everyone you know. Ring them, message them, send them something on Facebook. I don't care. Just get in touch with them and say, listen, you've got to be there. You cannot miss this. This is history being written, and future generations will ask you if you were there. It's like Woodstock was it 1960? I don't remember. Like Woodstock, that generation gets asked, oh, were you there? Were you at Woodstock? And I tell you what, anyone who was at Woodstock, they're going to tell you they were at Woodstock. Right? And there's a whole bunch of people that weren't at Woodstock. They're going to lie about it and pretend they were at Woodstock, right? This is this moment. We are writing history, and people in the future are going to say to you, were you there? And you want to be able to say, yeah, I was there. Because I tell you, you are never, ever going to forget it. So I'm going to light up the cigar. I'm going to talk to you about the unseen, the stuff that you don't know about these protests. And I think it's important that you know, because it gives you perspective. There's been a few things that have come up this week, a few messages that I've received, emails that I've received that I've gone, right, there's a problem here, and you think a certain thing is happening, but you only think that because you don't know. You don't understand the reality behind the scene, the unseen. So I'm going to break that wide open for you tonight. Explain the unseen, help you to wrap your head around what's going on. Because, on the one hand, seeing the truth, seeing behind the curtain can sometimes be a bit scary. Maybe it's not what we thought it was. Maybe things are more fragile than we thought they were, etc. But at the same time, if you understand the reality of what's happening here and how human it really is, then I think you will be better placed to make decisions about the role that you want to play and how you want to help push this movement forward. Because I think seeing the humanity behind these protests is going to help each of us to go, you know what? I can contribute. I have a voice. This isn't some whoa, it is amazing. And what these people have done is incredible. And I'll talk about that. But at the same time, it's very human. And you have a role to play. You have a part to play in helping this be massively, massively successful in history making. So I have the Romeo and Juliet at Churchill Reserve. I have black tea. And I tell you what, this is heartbreaking. This is hard to say. That's all the scotch I have left in the house. Can you believe I let myself get into this situation? I don't even know what did I do wrong? Did I forget to sacrifice a goat at the start of the week or something? I don't know. I did something terribly, terribly wrong. God is punishing me and I'm nearly out of scotch. So I will enjoy what's left of that very slowly tonight, but mostly tonight I'm going to be drinking the black tea. But let me get this lit and then we're going to have a chat. Oh, hang on. I've had 52 comments already and I haven't been looking at them. My apologies. Let me go back and have a look at some of these comments and share those with you while I get this cigar lit. I tell you what, this is an incredible moment to be alive. This is an incredible moment in history. And what we're doing now and what's happening now is not going to change the course of modern history. It's not going to be remembered for 10 years, for 20 years, for 50 years. It's going to change the course of history. We are changing who we are. We are changing how we vote. We are changing what we teach our children. We are changing everything because we are changing ourselves at a very deep and very fundamental level. Australians and especially Victorians, we are changing and we're making different decisions now than what we would have a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. We are honestly seeing history being written. Actually, if you're watching from anywhere outside of Melbourne, if you're in Melbourne, okay, whatever. Boring. I'm in Melbourne too. If you're outside of Melbourne, in Victoria or anywhere around Australia or anywhere around the world, I would love to know where you were watching from. Thank you, David. Wayne, I will see you definitely. It is going to be massive. This is going to be potentially bigger, like way, way bigger potentially than what last week was. Okay, so, all right, I'm armed with my Topher Field t-shirt, ready for Saturday. So tonight I'm sporting the Don't Make Me Repeat Myself history t-shirt just for fun. Look, I've got two favorites. Good people break bad laws. That's my favorite. That's the number one. I think that is one of the home truths that we have to learn out of all of this. But this one here, Don't Make Me Repeat Myself history. I really like that one as well. So I'm wearing that tonight. Good morning, Barb. Where are you? Where are you watching that it is morning? Yeah. So Catalina, thank you. Topher, thank you for listening to my concerns the other day in regards to my autistic son being locked out from his activities because he's 12 and not vaxxed. Saturday is going to be huge. Thank you for all your work. Well, Catalina, I appreciate you reaching out to me, and it was my pleasure to give you some, I guess, encouragement and some hope in that. I'm getting an enormous amount of messages right now, and I apologize because the overwhelming majority are going unanswered. It's just reality. I just can't. I've got other people now that are working for me, which I'm very grateful for, and they're doing things like cutting up the old slow chats into segments and posting those online, and you would have seen those, doing the quotes, designing new t-shirts, doing a bunch of that sort of stuff. But in the end, when it comes to checking my messages, checking my emails, that sort of stuff, it really does come down to me. I can't outsource that stuff. But the reality at the same time is I'm only one human being and I've got a lot on my plate right now. And so I have to apologize. There's an enormous number of messages going unanswered, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Just the fact that I didn't answer your message doesn't make it any less valid. I'm sorry. Please understand. This is just reality right now. I'm a dad. I've got 2 kids. I'm trying to stay sane. I'm trying to get the documentary done, and I'm now, I guess, playing a slightly bigger role than I used to in the protests. I haven't been an organizer, and I'm still not an organizer of the protests, but I am now beginning to play a bit more of a role than I used to, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And you put it all together, and I do my best. I do answer those that I can. And Barbara, I'm grateful for your, or Catalina, sorry, I'm grateful for your thanks to me. I appreciate that. But yeah, there's just a reality that I can't check all the messages. I can't check all the emails. Okay, now let me scroll to the bottom. I'm sorry for everyone that's commented. I'm skipping a huge number of comments, and jumping to the very, very bottom. Okay, I want to talk to you tonight about Saturday in Melbourne. But in order to talk to you about Saturday in Melbourne, I need to take a big step back, and I need to tell you about the protest organizers. These people are heroes. These people have been taking incredible risks. If the police knew who they were, and in some cases the police do know who they are, they show up at their door, they get arrested, they get harassed, they get mistreated in all kinds of horrible ways. And these people, knowing the risks, have chosen to get together with other like-minded people and to organize protests for you to attend. And yes, now that's easy because the police aren't cracking down. They're not arresting people anymore. They're not shooting at people anymore. They're not knocking on doors and dragging people away like they were at one point in time. But the people organizing the protests now are the same people that were organizing the protests when all of those things were being done. They took incredible risks, and they are worthy of absolute respect. Nothing but respect. Legends. They absolutely are. They are legends. And most of you will never know most of their names. That's the tragedy of it. And that's a necessary evil. In many cases, they don't want to be known. They don't want the stress of their name or their face being known. They don't need that in their life. And so what they have done will forever go unacknowledged. But I want to say, I can't name you. I'm not going to name you, and I'm not going to show your face. But know that you are known, you are recognized, you are respected, and you will not be forgotten. You've done incredible, amazing, amazing things for us. Sorry. Just even thinking about what they've done. I have a small insight into the risks that they took, right? Because, I've kind of been public. I haven't been an organizer, but I've been my face, my name, the police know where I live. They visit me. I've been arrested. I've been charged. But you know what? What's been done to me is still less than what's been done to some of them. Some of what they have endured is far beyond what I've endured. And even just thinking about the courage that it takes from them does this. Okay. Right. I'm back under control. Okay. We're good. So that's the first thing I want to say. But there's a couple of things that you probably don't know about protests and about protest organizers that I think is valuable for you to know. I think it's perspective that helps you, number one, to appreciate it better and to better understand what you're looking at, but also to be more useful. That's a patronizing term. Is like, oh, you're not being useful. No, for you to find your place within this tapestry. There's an amazing array of people making things happen. And I think understanding the reality of what's going on behind the scenes, what the reality of the unseen is going to help you a little bit to maybe find your place and where you belong and where you can bring the most value. So really that's what tonight is about. As far as most people are concerned, the protests in Melbourne really started in around about September, I think. September, October, November. Yeah, around about September of 2020. Now, of course, there were things that happened before then, but they were sporadic. They were isolated. The person who organized the very first protest in April 25th, 2020, it wasn't me. I was just an invited speaker. She invited me to come along. She is the original. She's the OG, right? But things were pretty quiet for a while. We did that in April. I released some videos. A few other bits and pieces happened. But really, there wasn't anything widespread until about September of 2020. So as far as most people are concerned, that's kind of when it started. And fair enough. But what happened was, as word got out, there's this protest, let's all get organized, let's all show up, let's all support this. The police, of course, started arresting people. And you've got to understand, before that first one, no one knew how the police were going to respond. I don't think it was unfair for the organizers to not necessarily be too worried about protecting their identity. Why would they need to protect their identity? They're organizing political protests in a free country. Why would I need to protect my identity, right? I don't think that's an unfair mentality to have. But Victoria Police quickly dispelled the myth that we're a free country. So Barb says, I didn't wake up until this year. I went to my first local rally on Saturday. It was amazing. You've picked a good time to attend your first rally, I tell you that. So I don't blame those people for getting identified and arrested, right? Because what reasonable person in Australia would think that you were going to get targeted like that for organizing a protest? But the reality is, all those organizers, they got targeted, they got arrested, they got slapped with bail conditions, they got shut down, right? Now, what that did was it created a vacuum where there was no leadership. There was this one event, but the leadership that created that event and really spawned this movement in its current sort of generation, I can trace it back to there, they'd all been taken out of the fight by bail conditions and arrests and everything else. And there were a bunch of very courageous people who put their hands up and said, all right, I'm going to do something. Only for them, it was different because now they knew the risk. They knew what it could cost them. They'd seen what had been done to other people, and they still put their hand up and went, okay, you know what? Me. I'll do this. And they got together with other like-minded people that they knew or other like-minded people that they met there at that protest. And they began to organize protests of their own. Here's the thing that most people don't realize. And that is that there are very, very different groups organizing different protests. The protests that you've attended, the protest happening on this Saturday coming up, is being organized by different people to the one that organized last Saturday. And the protest coming up on Saturday, the 4th of December, which, by the way, is the anniversary of the Eureka Stockade from 1854, if my memory serves me, 1856, 1854, somewhere there. And so they're actually going out to Ballarat, which I think is a wonderful piece of symbolism on December the 4th. But each of these are being organized by different groups of people. And this is important. This is really, really important because I had someone send me a message today, and I'm not going to say who they were, but they were quite upset and quite disillusioned and quite disappointed. And they were sitting there going, what happened to kill the bill? What happened to sack Dan Andrews? All of a sudden, the messaging is all about saying no to mandatory vaccinations. That's not what I'm about. I'm about killing the bill. And I replied to her, and we had a bit of a chat back and forth. And I realized that she'd only begun attending protests about 3 weeks ago. And the dominant protest, if you've only started in the last couple of weeks, was last week's protest. And that was the Rally for Freedom. That was all about kill the bill. And I said to her, listen, we were protesting against mandatory vaccinations long before this bill was written, long before we knew that we were going to be in this fight to the death over this bill, these permanent pandemic powers. Long before that, we were marching and protesting against mandatory vaccinations. That's back when we were getting shot at for the crime of daring to stand up. And she was kind enough and mature enough to go, oh, okay, sorry, I didn't understand. And she changed her approach and changed her perspective and recognized that, okay, that's actually, mandatory vaccinations are part of the problem and it's a valid thing for us to be protesting against. But here's what she missed and what I want to bring out tonight. There are different groups organizing different protests, and each of them have different focuses, and that's perfectly legitimate. So the focus of the group that is organizing the protest on Saturday, they are the Millions March Against Mandatory Vaccinations, MMAVM group, right? And that's what they've been standing up for since they formed as a group. So cast your mind back to September of 2020. All the leaders that organized that rally have been arrested and taken out of the fight. A new generation of leaders come up. They form groups and cliques with those that they know and trust. And they are naturally very untrusting of anyone outside of that clique. And that makes sense under the circumstances, with the level of police brutality, the level of force being used, the arrests, the intimidation. It makes a lot of sense. You're going to sit there and be like, I know I trust these people. I don't know who any of those people are. They say they're also on my side. They say they're going to also organize protests. Do they have a plant among them? Is there a police informant among them? Are they actually on my side? I'm not sure. So I'm going to trust my group, and I'm not going to trust that group. And that's a natural human instinct. And if you look at history, that's been the fate of all illegal protest or anti-government movements throughout all of time. Factionalism has arisen. It's just a part of human nature. So, you look at the French resistance. The French resistance against the Nazis. They couldn't even unite against the Nazis. They had different factions of French resistance. You look at the IRA, there were different factions going on. They couldn't even unite against the British Crown. They still had their different factions. It's human nature. It's not a slight or an insult against the people that have done this. It makes sense. You're afraid. You're paranoid. You know that there are going to be government plans. You know that VicPol are trying to infiltrate. You know that you trust this group of people, but that group of people and that group of people that are also organizing protests, well, they're unknown. And you don't know if you can trust them. You don't know if they've been infiltrated. So we ended up with these independent groups, and I do not blame them. Please understand, this is not a criticism. I'm just bringing you up to speed with the reality. I've never been a protest organizer. And I don't, therefore, I cannot claim to understand what that's like. I have been an event organizer for legal events in the past, and it's already a hard job, right? When your event is perfectly legal, it's pretty hard to organize a big event. Logistically, it's a difficult thing. To organize a big event whilst it is illegal, supposedly, for you to do that, the psychological drain of that is hard to kind of imagine. So I do not blame anyone for a moment for whatever may have gone through their head or how they may have thought about the other groups. And so for a very long time, and all the way through 2020 and 2021, without you probably being aware of it, the protests that happened weren't all organized by the same people. There wasn't a single group organizing protests. There were multiple different groups organizing protests, and each group had a number of people. And in a way, that was our strength. That was our power, was the fact that there was no one person to decapitate or to arrest. Sorry, I'm not talking literally decapitate, but you couldn't decapitate the movement by arresting one person or even arresting 3 different people from 3 different groups. It was so decentralized across different groups and then decentralized within those groups that it just wasn't that easy for the police to be able to shut it down. So we then fast forward to about a month ago, or a bit over a month ago now, where all of a sudden the police posture changed and we went from being shot at to actually being facilitated. And that was kind of a shock. And it takes a little bit of time for you to mentally recognize the change and go, okay, this is different now. We've moved on from where we were. We're now into some different territory. What is this territory? What are the new rules? How does this work now? I'm not sure. So, Michelle, thank you for your question. I know there's lots of questions coming through, and I'm sorry, I'm just focused on getting through what I've got, and then we'll get to questions later. But Michelle asks, where is this happening in Melbourne? Parliament House, 12 p.m. on Saturday, with a march. I think we're going the long way. I'm not sure exactly how their plan is, so do make sure you pay attention on the day and join in how they plan to do it. But the plan is that we end up at Treasury Gardens, and there's going to be a massive speaker system. I'm going to talk a lot more about that in a minute. Massive speaker system so that everyone can hear, and it's going to be a really good day and a really good event, and you're going to be really, really, really glad you came. So Parliament House, midday on Saturday. I will be there, and you should be there too. Okay, so you've got all these different groups that are organizing different events, and instinctively they don't trust each other. Not because they're horrible, paranoid people, but because that's the reality of living in a police state where people are being dragged away and arrested, and the government are trying to infiltrate groups, etc. It's natural. That's just what happens. Now, we arrived at roughly a month ago. All of a sudden, the rules changed, and we're all trying to figure out what the rules are. What are the new rules? How does this work now? And people became bolder, and more people started to come out to the protests once the really aggressive police violence kind of stopped. More people are starting to show up. But we've still got this issue where each event is being organized by a different group. And initially, that didn't matter. Understand, that doesn't matter so much when the arrests are when the protests are illegal. It doesn't matter so much because they're just trying to get a group of people together. Just get together in one place at the one time, get enough people that we can't just get pounced on, and then we go from there, right? But it actually becomes more important once the events become legal, and especially once the events start to get hundreds of thousands of people, the organization starts to become really, really important. Last week was an absolute breakthrough, absolutely phenomenal. But no one knew that there were going to be that many people. So we've had a lot of feedback. I've had a lot of people reach out to me. I'm not one of the organizers, but people reach out to me anyway and saying, oh, we couldn't hear you from down the back. It's such a shame we couldn't hear you. And I'm like, yes, because the organizers rightly didn't organize a sound system for 400,000 people, or let's say it's 200,000 people. They didn't organize a sound system big enough for that. And with good reason. No one knew. We didn't know. We had no reason to expect that many people were going to show up all of a sudden. So what's been fantastic, and the end of this particular point for me before I move on to something else, is in the last month, we've seen those different groups coming together and putting aside the mistrust, putting aside whatever's been said or done or thought in the past. And these groups that have organized different protests, they, to me, and I mean no disrespect to actual combat veterans, but in a way, there is a certain brotherhood amongst them. And I don't include myself in them, right? I haven't taken the same risks that they have. But there is a certain brotherhood amongst them that they put themselves out there and they organized and they made things happen, knowing what the risks were, knowing what the price might have been. And it's just been wonderful for me sitting on the sidelines to see them coming together and putting aside differences and putting aside mistrust and putting aside everything else, and just going, we have a common cause. We have a common purpose. Let's work together on this. And that's what we're seeing the fruit of now. We're seeing Melbourne come together and showing up in massive numbers. But behind the scenes, we're seeing the different groups, the different organizers coming together, supporting each other's events, marketing each other's events, and putting the word out and saying, hey, everybody, get there. Now, that did happen to a certain degree previously, but it's happening more than ever before. And so what we're seeing now is this beautiful moment where both the people of Melbourne, or people of Victoria, because let's be honest, we've got a huge number of people coming down from all over Victoria. I'm aware of buses, like Greyhound buses, coming from towns all over Victoria into Melbourne to be a part of what happens on Saturday. And good on you guys. Like, that's a massive effort. You're like leaving home at 6 o'clock in the morning to come down here and be a part of it and then get home at, who knows, midnight. Amazing stuff. So we're seeing the people of Victoria get together in incredible ways. But behind the scenes, we're seeing the organizers, the different groups that previously didn't know whether they could trust each other and by default erred on the side of not trusting each other. And again, for human psychological reasons, I can understand that. But now they're putting that aside. They're letting bygones be bygones and they're coming together. And this is, I think, incredibly powerful. incredibly powerful. And this is part of why we're seeing the growth in the movement that we're seeing. So I wanted you to kind of have an insight. There's these different groups, different factions. Each has their own focus. They haven't trusted each other for a very long time. Now they're coming together. I wanted you to see that. I wanted you to know that that's what's been going on. Because I think it's really important that we all understand just how human this journey has been. We are not where we are at by accident. We are where we are because a small army of people took risks and persevered and would not give up and accepted that the consequences for them individually might be terrible. And they did it anyway. And they worked. And they worked when we had no idea that we were going to get to the point that we're at now. This is the thing that is just so emotional for me, and I know for so many of them. We did what we did, and I was not an organizer. I'm not claiming credit for that, okay? I just showed up and I spoke at some rallies. Right? That's all I did. And encouraged people to attend rallies. That's all I've done, all right? But these people and people like me who have supported them, we did what we did having no idea that we would ever get to this moment. Having no idea that we would ever see the day when 250,000 people, 300,000, 400,000, who knows? Who knows what Saturday will hold? When that many people were going to show up, right? We had no idea. And here we are. And I tell you what, that puts a smile on my face. Okay, so that's important background perspective. It's not immediately useful to you. There's nothing for you to do with that information, but I think it's important information. Gail, thank you for that comment. Yeah, absolutely. Let me bring that up. We marched with you at Tokemwell in September 2019. So this is going back to the water issue, the Murray-Darling Basin, which has been my main issue for the last 12 years. Or 9 years ago, I got into the Murray-Darling Basin. And it's been my main issue ever since. And we held a rally at Tokemwell, which was wonderful. We held a rally in Canberra, and I was they invited me, again, I'm not an organizer, but they invited me to be the MC of this rally in Canberra, and I accepted. I was honored. It was my privilege to do that. We had about 4,000 people show up, and farmers, tractors, trucks. Like, it was an amazing spectacle. It was incredible. And 4,000 people. And I remember looking at that and thinking, wow, I'll probably never see a bigger crowd. I'll probably never get to speak to a bigger crowd. 4,000 people. Can you imagine? Fast forward 2 years. Goodness me. So the second anniversary of that Canberra protest is actually coming up next weekend, the 4th of December, which is also the anniversary of the Eureka Stockade. And next weekend is going to be amazing. But hey, let's talk about that after this weekend, because this weekend, numbers-wise, this weekend is going to be phenomenal. Simon says, oops, sorry, Simon. So Simon, I actually know Simon from my childhood, and he came and said hi on Saturday. It's amazing. One of the beautiful things for me personally about, I guess, being TOFA is that all these people that I've known over, that I've lost touch with for 20 years or more. In Simon's case, it's been at least 20 years. Coming and saying hi, and I'm reconnecting, and it's amazing. So Simon came and said hi, and he stuck around with us and provided security for us last week, because I wasn't sure what was going to happen with the counter protesters. And Simon says, I've been incarcerated for doing the wrong thing, some criminal activity and stuff. So it would be my honor to go back into prison for the good of the community. Well, Simon, hopefully you'll never have to do that. And I tell you what, I have massive, massive respect for anyone that has headed down the wrong path and then has done the work to pull their life back into line and to take control of their own destiny, as you've done. I've got massive respect for. So well done, you. So, all right. So all of that perspective, all of that background as to what's going on behind the scenes brings me to this protest coming up on Saturday. First and foremost, it's going to be freaking massive. It is very likely to be bigger than Saturday just gone. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know that for a fact. But what I know is an enormous number of people are getting in touch with me and sending me messages and saying, hey, I'm coming. I'm coming for the first time. I'm bringing a car with 5 people that have never come before. And I'm getting so many of those sorts of messages that I'm sitting here going, okay, there are a lot of first timers coming. There are a lot of people, coming for the very first time. And that means big numbers, because a lot of people are going to come back. They're going to come for the second time, the third time, the 10th time, the 50th. Well, not 50. We haven't had that many, but you get what I mean. Smith, Jack, what should people like me do who are somewhat on the sidelines? What should we do to support the movement? That's kind of what I'm getting to. Certainly a way that you can very specifically help me, and I'll talk about that, but also the movement more generally. So one of the challenges that comes with being legitimate all of a sudden, because remember, we were illegitimate protests for a very long time. One of the challenges that comes is all of a sudden we're not 2,000 people and speaking through megaphones. We're 200,000 people, and we need bigger sound systems, and we need portaloos, and we need food trucks. And I mean, these things are almost morphing from protests into sort of public events. These are kind of massive scale public events that are happening now. All of a sudden, literally, we went from illegal and being shot at to 250,000 people or more in 5 weeks? And now the protesters are scrambling. Sorry, not the protesters. The organizers are scrambling to catch up. They're trying to morph and modify what they do and their plans to account for this new reality, right? But remember also, they're different groups. So the ones that are organizing this coming Saturday are not the same as the ones that organized last Saturday. But what is great is there's a lot of communication now between the groups. And so the group organizing this Saturday has been talking to the group that organized last Saturday, and there are some lessons that have been learned. So obviously the sound system's an issue, right? Now, can I just tell you, the sound system at the last protest on Saturday just gone was 4 times bigger than the sound system at any other protest before. The problem is the protest was also 4 times bigger. And all of a sudden it was still inadequate. It still wasn't enough. And this is what I mean. Like they're playing catch up. They're doing everything in their power and they're trying. But boy, this is changing so fast. So I heard possible food trucks. I emphasize the word possible. I know they're working on it. One of the problems at the moment is council. So Melbourne City Council don't exactly like us. And we need to move very quickly. We're saying, hey, there's a protest this Saturday. Can we get a permit? And they're saying, we'll get back to you in a couple of weeks, right? And this is just the reality of the speed of government versus the speed of real life. So they're doing what they can. The same with portaloos. I know that they're trying to get portaloos on site. There are some public toilets in the Treasury Gardens and across the road as well. There is some access to some public toilets, so hopefully it will be better than what Flagstaff Gardens were. But having said that, if we have 300,000, 500,000, who knows how many people, there's not going to be enough. And I know that they're trying. The organizers for this weekend, they are doing everything in their power. But unfortunately, the portaloo companies are not going to show up and drop off their portaloos unless there's a permit. You can't get a permit unless Melbourne City Council say, hey, yes, you're allowed to have this here. And that takes weeks. Even if they agreed with us and allowed us to do it, that would take weeks. And we don't have weeks. We have days. So we're in this really interesting space now where we have these phenomenally successful protests in terms of the number of people. And the organizers are scrambling at 1,000,000 miles an hour to adjust what they do and to modify how they go about organizing these protests to account for this new reality. But things like council are proving to be a pretty big obstacle. So let me tell you the state of play for this Saturday as I understand it. And then I'll get to the point of how you can help out. As I understand it, the state of play for this Saturday is we have a kick-ass sound system. And I'll talk a lot more about that in a minute because I've been personally involved in helping that to happen. As I understand it, we are not at this point in time allowed to have portaloos. They are working on it. I promise you, they are doing everything they can. However, there are certain realities of the way our system works. It shouldn't work the way that it does, but it does work the way that it does, that may not make that possible. And so can I just ask everyone, especially if you've got kids with you, just to think ahead, to think about where else you could go, whether it's Jolimont train station, whether it's to other shops that may be up the road or in other sort of areas. It's an awful subject, but it's a reality. You get a couple of 100,000 people together in the same spot, it's a biological reality. So if you can think ahead as much as you can and have a plan for what you want to do. Yes, there are some toilets inside the Treasury Gardens, and there's some toilets just across the road as well, closer to the observatory. And they will be, I'm sure, very heavily patronized over the course of the day. But yeah, there's a reality there, right? So please don't blame the organizers for that. They are, I promise you, doing everything they can. I'm getting a disturbing number of comments about adult nappies. I mean, maybe one person, it's kind of a joke, but like, are there a lot of you that actually wear adult nappies? Because it's starting to get a little disturbing. Just how many people are making jokes about adult nappies? It's just a bit. I don't know. I feel like I need to wash my hands now. Okay, so enough of that. So Chris Ray says, bring a roll of toilet paper. So guys, make of that what you will. Make your plans accordingly. Maybe have a look at Google Maps and have a think about where you want to be in the crowd, and how you want to time things. And if you've got kids with you and all that sort of stuff, have a really good think about that, because it's a reality. And it's one of those things that when you get a couple of 100,000 people together, all right, it's got to be thought about. The other thing that I know that the organizers are working on, but again, there's permit issues, and the owners of food trucks want to play by the rules, right? They depend on getting permits. They depend on getting permission to show up to places and open for business. And so they want to kind of play nice with the council. But again, getting council permits takes time and everything else. So it is my understanding that they are working on food trucks, and they are working on porta potties. I don't know what the outcome of that's going to be. We've only got one more day to try and make something happen there, but I know that they're working on it. So, however, the other thing that they've worked very hard on and have been successful at is a kick-ass sound system. So I offered to help out with that and help to organize that. And I've been involved in some fairly significant public events in the past, and I know what it takes to have a sound system that is adequate. And so I offered earlier this week, I said, look, I can make that happen. There is a condition that I need to be able to fundraise to try and cover the costs of that, because we're talking a lot of money. And they had other offers of help that were less complicated, people saying, hey, I can bring something. And so they went with those offers, and then they got in touch with me earlier today. And they said, actually, those offers have proven to not be adequate. They're not up to the job. They're not a big enough system, or whatever the issue was with the different offers that they had. And so they got in touch with me earlier today and said, sorry about this, but can we take you up on your offer? Could you organize a big sound system? And yes, you can do your fundraiser, which I'll talk about in just a second, to help pay for that sound system. So I spent today frantically on the phone. And the guy that I've got, the contact that I've got, he was like, yep, I can make that happen. Absolutely. The hard part has been getting payment to him fast enough. So I've had to raid the savings account It's one of the realities of the events industry is that everyone wants to be paid in advance. They get burned too often by people who are like, yeah, we'll pay. And then once the event is done, there's no urgency to pay anymore, is there? So they always want to be paid in advance. And of course, it's Thursday and I need to have the money in their account by tomorrow in order to then have the event, have them show up at the event on Saturday. So we've spent some time sorting all of that out, rated the savings account to have an absolutely kick-ass system. So for those of you that are into this sort of thing, it's a 25,000 watt outdoor system that'll be hung from a trellis. So it's up and elevated, and it should be able to carry the sound for about 1 kilometer. We should still, the speeches should still be audible for nearly 1 kilometer. Now, there are trees in the park as well that are going to play with that and affect that definitely. So it may not quite be carrying that far, but it's a 25,000 watt dedicated outdoor system run by a professional company that do this for a living. This is what they do. And I've engaged them, and their cost plus a few other bits and pieces that have had to go into that is nearly $15,000. And my wife doesn't know this yet, but we've paid that out of our savings. I've rated the savings account to fund that. So here is what the organizers have very kindly agreed. What we're going to do is have a limited edition t-shirt that is only available for 24 hours. It will be available from midday on Saturday until midday on Sunday. And my designer is working on it right now. And what it will say is, I was there. And then it will have a picture of Parliament House and the date, the 27th of November, 2021. And it's designed to be a conversation starter. It's designed to be, you show up to Christmas or New Year's or wherever you show up, you've got this shirt that says, I was there, and then this building, and people are going to be like, what's that about? Right? They're going to be confused by it. Where were you? You were there? What? And so that is, the intention is that by buying that shirt, you help us, or you help me, to not be in the doghouse when my wife realizes there's $15,000 missing from the family bank account. And you also then have something that is a memento. It's a keepsake. You have that to forever remind you of that atmosphere and that moment in history where you were there. But it's also a conversation starter, and it's going to get other people to open the door for you to tell them about that moment and about who we really are and how many people were really there, and to counter a lot of the mainstream media kind of stuff. Katerina, I appreciate that. What's with the whinges about the cigar? Leave the bloke alone. You should be ashamed. He's standing up for your rights now. Enough nonsense. Sit there and listen. Agreed. Sit there and listen, or go and do something else. I don't care, right? But there's no need to whinge. So what's going to happen is on the day, I need a small army of people to help me, to rendezvous with me at 11:30 at a location that I will disclose. I haven't actually decided yet, but it's probably, just for simplicity's sake, it's probably going to be behind the stage. That's getting, not the stage, but the sound system. So there'll be a truck there, a big sound system. It's going to be right next to that truck at 11:30 on Saturday. We're going to have 10,000 flyers to hand out, and I need 100 people to grab 100 of those each, and then just go deep into the crowd and hand them out. Right. And that will have the information for people on how to buy that particular t-shirt. Now, most people won't, right? And that's fine. That's fair. Okay, no problem. But a percentage of people will. And for me to recoup the $15,000, I need to sell nearly 1,000 t-shirts. Yeah, good luck me, huh? Michael Saunders says Topher better not have a black eye on the next show. Buy a t-shirt. So Jody is asking, how much will the t-shirts be? They're going to be $39, which is more than I like to charge for my t-shirts, but I need to get this money back. It's literally come out of what's left of our family savings. So I need about 100 people to show up at about 11:30, so about a half an hour early, and I'm going to hand you 100 of these flyers each. And I just need you then, not necessarily straight away, because more people are going to be coming as time goes on, right? And we don't want to have everyone in one spot just trying to hand flyers to the same people. But over the course of the following 2 hours, to try and distribute as many of those as possible to people that don't already have one. And a small percentage of people will go, yeah, I want that. And they'll buy that. And hopefully that will then recoup the 15 grand that I have stumped up for this sound system. Now, in the unlikely event that we actually exceed the 15 grand, all of the proceeds from those shirts will be quarantined and set aside to help fund future protests. So you remember what I said, there's different groups that have organized different protests. Well, I don't belong to any of those groups. So I don't care who's organizing the protest on December the 4th. I'm going to get in touch with them and say, hey, what do you need? I've got some budget here. What's going to move the needle? What's going to make a difference for you to make your event a massive success and make sure that the whole world sees that it was a massive success? And then we'll probably have another t-shirt for that one. And then we'll roll on from there and roll on from there. And in a way, I'm hoping that because I'm not affiliated with any one of these organizational groups, I'm hoping that I can become a financier, I don't know, greasing the wheels. Because remember this is the perspective that I think we all need to have. These people, these organizers, they've done everything for free up until now. Any costs that have been incurred, they've paid. Now, the costs haven't been massive. I mean, individually, they can be if they get arrested and whatever else. Obviously, they can be massive. But in terms of the costs of the protests, they're not necessarily massive. But now that we are not being shot at by the police, now that we have things like sound systems that are big enough for a few 100,000 people to hear us, the costs are going through the roof. The financial costs are going through the roof. And if each individual group is trying to organize their own financing, that gets really messy. So my hope is, and I've got the blessing of the organizers for this weekend, they're 100% on board this. And also from last weekend, I won't mention what happened there, but I helped out a little bit last weekend with nothing in return. No t-shirts to sell, no nothing. So all of this is about making sure that these organizers can keep doing what they're doing, but can adapt. My hope is that in future protests, we will have portaloos. We will have food trucks. We will have massive sound systems. We will have all of those things, and that we can pay for those so that the organizers that have shouldered all of that risk for the last year and a half don't also have to shoulder the financial cost now that things are evolving and now that things are getting bigger. So if that's what if you want to be a part of that, and I would love if you would be a part of that, can you just plan to get there on Saturday about a half hour early? Get there at about 11:30. Meet me at 11:30. I'm going to be next to the trucks where the sound system is being set up. So that's going to be on Spring Street to the south of Treasury, right? So the truck is about half a block. Excuse me. The truck and the sound system will be about a half a block south of the Treasury building itself. And if you can meet me there, and I'm just going to hand out sort of 100 flyers at a time. And if you run out, come and find me and get some more, right? And there's no rush to hand them out straight away. But by the time you're going home, you need to make sure, if you accept them, if you let me pass them to you, you are accepting the responsibility to make sure that they end up in the hands of people who are there. So that hopefully a small percentage of those will decide to buy that t-shirt and will then help to recover the cost. And in an ideal scenario, will actually give me a kitty, a budget to play with, to then go to the organizers of December the 4th and the organizers of the week after and the week after that, and actually say, hey, listen, we've got some budget here. How can we spend that in the best possible way to make this the best possible event? So that's what's happening. Now, Michael James has asked a good question. So let me tell you a bit about the evolution of this idea and why I'm so grateful for the team that I've got. I've mentioned a few times, I'm now working with a team. I've got 4 people that I pay part-time. Again, that comes out of our own family savings. We try and fund that out of the other t-shirt sales, all these t-shirts, right? Help me to pay for that team, okay? It's a separate thing. All that's going to be kept separate from these fundraising t-shirts for the protests. That's a separate thing. That budget is kept separate. But my team are amazing, and they really helped me to think through this in a really good way. So my idea was, so it's not feasible for me to get 1,000 t-shirts printed and brought down, right? It's so the guy that makes these t-shirts is in Horsham, does a wonderful job. The quality is amazing. He's a great guy. It's an Australian regional Victorian business that I want to support, but it's not feasible to say to him, hey mate, print me 1,000 t-shirts and bring them down with you. Then I've got to have a table, and I've got to have staff, and I've got to have a payment portal. And this is where it all fell apart. So Michael's saying cash card. If you were there on Saturday, do you remember how the internet just could not cope? Hundreds of thousands of people, some people trying to live stream out, heaps of people trying to watch live streams. The internet simply could not cope. So Angela is noticing all the trolls. This is normal. This is normal when you're someone like myself with any level of public profile. I'll talk about this afterwards. Actually, this is worth talking about. You attract people like that. You enjoy ignoring them, and you appreciate the fact that they're there and they are helping your algorithm. The more people comment on this live, the more people get shown that there's a live happening. So the fact that they're here and commenting, excellent. So the deal breaker for that idea was, besides the logistics being tough, and you think about trying to sell, whether it's sort of 500 shirts or 1,000 shirts, how many shirts you have to sell per minute over, say, a 3-hour period to actually sell that many shirts. Like, it's the logistics of this gets tough. But the deal breaker was, even if I could organize someone with a little square payment terminal thing, it's not going to have reception because they all depend on 4G. And if you were there on Saturday, that ain't going to work, right? And so that's where we evolved into this idea of, okay, let's actually hand out a flyer so that people have the URL to go to. And even if they can't get on the internet then and there to buy it, it remains available until midday Sunday. So it's available from midday Saturday to midday Sunday, 24 hours only. If you do not buy it in that 24-hour window, you will never have one. You will never get one. It says, I was there, Parliament House, a big picture of Parliament House, and then the date. Okay. If you want one, you've got to get it within that 24-hour window, and all of the proceeds from that shirt will go towards the protest that I've already helped to fund. The protest last week, I'll recoup my money from last week's protest as well. And then any additional money will go towards future protests. So, but I need your help because we've got about 10,000 of these flyers printed up. We want to hand them out, but we want to hand them out to people that actually want them, right? Not necessarily just to absolute randoms, but to people that are more likely to actually then go online and actually buy one of these things so that I can recoup the money and then we can fund future protests. So if you're willing to help out with that, 11:30 Saturday morning at the truck, which is where the sound system is being set up, which is going to be on Spring Street, right around about the end of Flinders Lane. So roughly the intersection of Flinders Lane and Spring Street, Melbourne, is where you're going to see 2 trucks side by side, one flatbed, which is the stage, and then another truck, which has brought all of the sound equipment. And you'll see all the big sort of sound stuff being set up there. And you'll be able to then find me at around about 11:30 handing those out for you to then help distribute to the rest of the crowd. It's not going to help me. Let me be clear about this. When you buy these t-shirts, that helps me, and I appreciate that a lot, right? This t-shirt is not about helping me. It's about putting back into my pocket the money I've already spent and then giving me a fighting fund, a kitty that I can then use to help these other protest organizing groups to do what they've done over the last 18 months for free, only to level up, to have better sound systems, to have porta potties, to have all that sort of stuff. Getting a fair few questions around. So Alan is saying, I hope they mentioned t-shirts from the stage. That was part of the deal that I made with them. I said, look, I'm happy to fund this. I will take the risk, $15,000 out of my savings. My balls are on the line, but the MC has to mention them. Like, the MC has to talk about them as well, and I'm allowed to talk about them when I get up to do my speech. I'll start by talking about that, and then I'll make my remarks. Ishnis is asking, how much will they cost? $39 each, right? Which is a slight markup. My normal shirts are about $35. This is a slight markup because they're a limited edition shirt specifically for the idea of raising money to repay me for this protest and then to give me money to be able to use towards future protests as well. Can we order now? I'm being asked. No, you cannot. There is a 24-hour window. They are strictly limited edition. That's it. 24-hour window from midday Saturday to midday Sunday. That's it. This is a good point, Benjamin. If you're going to be an organizer of funding, you need to have a governance framework in place to avoid unfounded allegations of misused funds. Yes, I take it you probably made that comment earlier. I guess that's why you're saying sorry to repeat this. I didn't see the earlier comment, but it is important. You're absolutely right. So what I'm going to have to do, because there isn't time to put in place a board or anything like that for sort of traditional governance, my plan is to run an open book. And so I will actually have a live where I lay out the finances and I say, here are the invoices that I've paid. Here are the shirt sales report from my supplier, who will have the report of how many shirts have sold. Here's the report of how much money has been paid out to me from those shirts, because obviously it costs money to make the shirts, to ship the shirts, all that stuff. So I get sort of more than half, but it's only a certain portion of the cost of those particular shirts. And then I will be public about all of that and saying, listen, I've got this much money left. I've got that much money left. Here's how I plan to use it, etc. So the governance is because time is so short, the governance is going to be best done, I think, just through transparency, just through simply laying it all out and saying, here's where we're at. Here's what I've paid for. Here's how much money the shirts have made. This is what's left in the kitty, or this is how much behind I am, depending on the scenario. I don't know. And that's, I think, just how we're going to do. The T-shirt itself says, I was there, and then it'll have a picture of Parliament House and then a date. Then if the organisers of next week's protest want to get on board this, then we'll have another shirt there that'll be themed around the Eureka Stockade, because that's the anniversary of the Eureka Stockade, 1854, December 4th, 1854. It's the anniversary of that. Will there be a limit on T-shirt numbers? We are not imposing a limit simply because we looked at it and went, okay, I could cap it at $15,000 of profit so that I've just made my money back. But then we have the exact same problem for the next protest and the one after that and the one after that. And each time I'm reaching into my savings and putting out the money in the hope that I get it back. Better to leave it uncapped. And if I end up with more money, obviously through the transparency that I just mentioned, if I end up with more money, then that will be public and that will be acknowledged publicly, and that will then be invested into future events as well. A T-shirt and a cigar. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to give away tobacco. I can sell tobacco, and if you'd like cigars, if you're interested in cigars, thecigarprofessor.com. Find that on Facebook. That's a business that I have with a partner of mine up in Sydney, The Cigar Professor. Find it on Facebook or find the website, although Facebook's better. We're more responsive on Facebook if you'd like that sort of thing. Okay. Okay. There was a good one. Aha. So Clement, no, it's not the Kim Jong-un and Hitler head, but I've been speaking to, I found the guy, thanks to you guys. So you remember I posted the picture of the guy that was wearing the shirt that had the three heads, and he had a sign that had the same artwork on it. So his name's William, and he made that himself. He's an artist, and he moved away from his art for a very long time. He was in business for a very long time. That business has been really impacted by COVID, and he's not actually earning any money at the moment. And so he has agreed to essentially a licensing deal with me. So actually, once I'm finished with this tonight, I'll be jumping on the T-shirt website to see whether it's all up. It should all be up and ready to go. And so those T-shirts, the white T-shirt with the three heads, will be available tonight. If that's something that interests you, I think it's an awesome idea. I think it's a great T-shirt. I'll be getting one of them for myself to wear because I just think it's awesome. But yeah, keep an eye on the Facebook page after the live tonight. If not, tomorrow, they'll be available. Yeah, are we taking bets and over and under on how soon the ABC or someone edits this live to insinuate that Topher has spent the last 12 years setting up a merch business? I tell you what, it is hilarious, the conspiracy theories that some people come up with. They're like, oh, this is all about money and all about you. Well, I've realized that it was a mistake for the first 10, 11 years of me being a political commentator. It was a mistake that I never tried to actually make a living out of it. And I thought I was doing the right thing. A little bit like Rukshan at the moment. Like lots of people are saying, hey, start a GoFundMe, start a Patreon, whatever. Like we want to support what you're doing. And Rukshan is saying, no. I want to be independent, right? And as soon as I accept money from people, it's sort of the independence sort of comes into question. I get it. I completely understand where he's coming from. But I've come to disagree with that particular perspective. Because when COVID started and all this nonsense began, and I sat there and I thought, I want to speak and I want to try and raise the alarm and raise awareness of what I believe to be the correct perspective. You're welcome to disagree with me, but what I believe to be the correct perspective on this. I realized that my platform was still only a very modest size. My audience was still only a very modest size. And if I had taken the approach of accepting support and then using that support and reinvesting that back into it to build the size of the platform, I could have made a much bigger difference. Now, when it matters, I would have had a bigger platform and could have spoken to far more people far more quickly than what I was able to do. So in hindsight, I realized it was a mistake. I thought I was doing the right thing, but actually now I think it was a mistake. And so some people have criticized me. Oh, the last year or so, particularly the last couple of months, oh, you're trying to sell t-shirts and you're trying to do this and you're trying to do that. Yes. Yes, I am. 100%. You're not obliged to buy anything. Okay. It's completely up to you whether you want to actually engage with that or not. But absolutely, I now have a team of people working with me, helping me to do what I do only better than ever before. And there's some really good things coming late this year and into the new year. There's some really good things coming that would not have been possible without this team beside me helping me to make that happen. There's just not enough hours in the day for one person to do that. But to pay that team, I need to make money somehow. Well, hello, this is how that happens. Okay. So I don't apologize for that. People want to criticize me for it. I say, yep, 100% I'm trying to sell t-shirts. 100% I'm trying to monetize what I do. I'm trying to monetize my audience. I'm not ashamed of that. I wish I'd done it sooner. Not because of what it would have done for me financially, but because of what it would have allowed me to do in terms of the audience and the influence and making a difference would have been so much greater had I swallowed my pride. It's this weird kind of reverse pride. I was too proud to accept support for far too long. And that's a lesson that I've learned. And I encourage guys like Rukshan and others, hey, monetize. It's not mercenary. It's not selfish. It allows you to keep doing what you do, and it allows you to do it more and to do it better. All right, that's that rant. Okay, heaps of comments, guys. I appreciate all the comments. There's way more than I can read, so I'm just going to scroll through. Melissa, thank you so much for your support and getting some t-shirts. I appreciate it. Yeah, I love it when the ABC or these other kind of journalists get up Rukshan or get up any of us, me or anyone else. Not that they've really had a go at me yet. For some reason, I've managed to dodge a lot of that. I'm not quite sure why. But I love it when they get up and they're like, oh, they're the former wedding videographer, like they're having a go at Rukshan. I'm like, yes, he worked for a living. Being a wedding videographer is freaking hard work. I did it for a little while. It's freaking hard work. And here's some journalist, or some politician presuming, an ABC. I love it when it's the ABC, especially. Like they're getting paid taxpayers' dollars for sweet fuck all. Pardon my language, but really sweet fuck all. And they want to have a go at someone that's trying to earn money in the marketplace. Goodness. All right. So yeah. So Justin, this was the choice I had to make. Do I just start doing more GoFundMes? Hey, support me. And I do have that. There is a page where if someone just wants to support me, they can do that. And I appreciate those of you that are on there. There's about 70 people on that right now. And I really appreciate that. But I'm a capitalist. I want to provide something in return besides just the content, right? I mean, the content I'm doing anyway. You don't have to pay for the content. If you don't want to pay for my content, don't pay for it. That's fine. So those that do choose to support me, I kind of wanted to have something else that they got in return. And that's where the t-shirts came in, and I'm expanding into hoodies and other things. And there are plans to expand much more broadly than that into the future. So anyway, that's not what tonight is about. So coming back to Saturday. So you understand now the moving parts. There's different groups organizing each of these protests. They are coming together in amazing ways, but they are going to continue to. So what happened was initially they were all competing. There was no communication between them. And this is going back into 2020. And then a bit of time passed, and they began to recognize that each of these other groups probably wasn't working for the government. If they were, they probably would have fallen apart by that point in time. And so they began communicating with each other and at least deconflicting, separating the dates and saying, okay, well, this group, you've got that Saturday. That group, you've got that day. That group, you've got that day. And they weren't competing with each other and trying to organize different protests in different locations on the same day, which was happening early on. Now what we're seeing is the next step beyond that, where they're actually working together and promoting each other's events. And that's what's happening now, which is amazing. but they are still separate groups of organizers. So helping to financially support them and each of them, I don't care which group it is, let's just make sure that each and every event is massively successful and that we get really good social media coverage. Even if the media won't touch us, let's get really good social media coverage so that we've got the proof of the numbers, that we've got the proof that it was a massive success. We've got the proof that it was ordinary, everyday, multicultural Australians who were there, not some bunch of right-wing nut jobs and whatever else the media wants to say. That's my priority in all of this. So how can you help? Understand, people often say to me, oh, what's the point of protests? The politicians don't care about protests, blah, blah, blah. Well, at one level, that's correct. The politicians don't really care. They're not really paying attention to us. But they do care about the overall zeitgeist of public opinion. So what you need to be thinking about is not just showing up to the protest and being a part of this incredible moment, although that's massive. It's so important. But you need to be thinking about the photographs that you take and the videos that you record, not necessarily streaming live, right? Because obviously the bandwidth is going to be terrible and you're probably not going to be able to stream live while you're there. But take photos, take videos, show it in those photos and videos. And then when you get home, upload them then. Make sure that Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever the latest platform is. I'm so out of date. I don't even know. Whatever the platform of choice for you is, make sure that it is awash with images, with videos, showing massive crowds, happy people, people engaging with each other, talking with each other, having a great time. Make sure that what you show the world absolutely explodes the lies that the mainstream media are going to tell about us. We know they're going to lie about us. That's a given. You know, so many people send me stuff. Oh, Channel 9, Channel 7, whatever. Oh, they lied about us. Yeah. What's new? Right? What's new? Of course they're lying about us. It all comes down to positive optics and influencing opinion polls and then Labor seats. All right. Now, some people have been asking in the comments about all of the people who have resigned or announced, sorry, they haven't resigned. They've announced that they will not contest the next election. I believe it was 3 Labor MPs today and I think 1 Greens MP or something I heard. I haven't been following it this afternoon since everything else blew up. But it's all of a sudden all these people on the same day saying we're not going to contest the next election. That's normal to a certain degree. Almost every single election, there will be MPs that pick that election as their time to bow out. They're done. They've had enough. Maybe they've had a long career, maybe they've had a short career, but for whatever reason, they feel like their time is up. So I've got lots of people saying it was 4 MPs. Okay, great. 4 MPs today. So I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. And one thing that anyone that follows me should know about me by now is I try to be very careful. Doesn't mean I'm always right, but I do try to be careful. And a certain number of MPs choosing not to contest is fairly normal. It is a little unusual to have them announce on the same day. That struck me as a little bit odd. Is that a sign? Should we be reading into that? I'm inclined to say no. Just out of an abundance of caution, I'm inclined to say no. Let's not read into that too much. It's encouraging. It's not a bad sign. It's not a bad sign at all. But I wouldn't be in too much of a hurry to read into that too much. And, oh, the Labor Party's falling apart. That's probably a little bit of a stretch at this moment in time. Where the Labor Party is going to be put under stress and is going to have the potential to fracture is if Daniel Andrews fails to bring in any new emergency legislation, emergency powers legislation before the state of emergency expires on the 15th of December. And that's why this Saturday's protest is so important. If Daniel Andrews is unable to make a deal with any crossbencher for any legislation and is not able to get new legislation passed before the state of emergency ends, which is not that far away, it's less than a month away now, it's only about three and a bit weeks. If we can make that happen, That is going to be interpreted by everyone within the Labor Party as a huge challenge to Daniel Andrews' legitimacy as a leader. If he can't get through this legislation with all of the fear-mongering, right, and what he's doing, understand the arguments that he's making. He's making the argument to these crossbenchers that, hey, if we don't pass something, then all of a sudden there's going to be no vaccine mandates. There's going to be no requirement for people to be vaccinated to go into certain types of facilities. All of that's going to end. I won't be able to lock people down if there's another outbreak, right? He's catastrophizing that. He's saying this will be a disaster if that happens. So imagine in that context, if he doesn't get his legislation, what does that mean that the crossbench have said to him? What are they saying to him if in the context of that pressure and that manipulation, they still don't give him his powers? This is a really seminal moment. The sitting week is this coming week, and Saturday is our big chance to make a statement that will be sitting there playing in the backs of the minds of all of the crossbenchers as this legislation gets reintroduced into the upper house, as they try and ram it through, as they try and negotiate, manipulate, bully, pressure, whatever tactics they may use. The numbers that we have there in the Treasury, at the front of Parliament, and then in the Treasury Gardens, those numbers are going to be playing in the backs of the minds on repeat of all of those crossbench MPs. This is the best shot that we have. Now, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if one of those crossbenchers is going to sell us out or not. This is the nature of writing history, right? If you're anything like me, you've read a lot of history, but even as you're reading it, you already kind of know what happens in the end. Now we're writing history, and we don't know what happens in the end, but we just have to do everything. Leave nothing on the table. Don't walk off the field of contest feeling like you could have given more. Give everything. And that way you can be proud no matter what the outcome is. Even if he manages to manipulate one of them into supporting him and get some terrible piece of legislation passed, you need to make sure that you can look your grandkids in the eye and say, yes, but I gave everything. We didn't fail because of me, because I refused, because I wouldn't. I gave everything. I risked everything. That's what you want to be able to tell your grandkids. And that's what this moment is about. We are at the we're in the final quarter of this grand final football match. We're in the final quarter. There's 5 minutes left on the clock, and it hangs in the balance, and we don't know who's going to win this contest. We don't know who's going to win this fight. Give it everything. Be there on Saturday. Load up your car with as many people as are willing to come. If you see a hitchhiker on your way in, pick them up and say, hey, bad luck, you're coming to a protest, right? No, don't do that, because that could be classified as kidnapping. But you get what I mean, right? Be there. Be there. Be passionate. Be friendly. Have a smile on your face. Have a sign. Wear a T-shirt with a slogan. Do everything in your power. Take photos. Take videos. Share them online. Do everything that is in your power, because the cumulative effect of all of those little things becomes massive. When there's a couple of 100,000 people sharing photos, sharing videos, making noise and saying, this was an amazing day, look at all of these people, that becomes a massive message. We between us are way bigger than the mainstream media. Our combined reach, forget my page, even forget Rukshan, like he's got massive reach, but forget that. If there's a couple of 100,000 people there on Saturday, and all of those people share photos and share videos, your collective reach puts the mainstream media to shame. They've got nothing on you guys. So play your part. Do that bit that you can do, and know that everyone else is doing their bit. And together, we add up to being a hell of a lot. So that's really what I had to say. So for those that have joined since then, if you want to help out, we've brought in a massive kick-ass sound system for this protest. Hopefully everyone will be able to hear this time. If not everyone can hear, it won't be for a lack of trying. It'll just be because the crowd is too massive. But that's cost me about just a bit under $15,000 so far to fund that. And I have the agreement of the organizers of the protest. They have agreed that I can sell a specific fundraising T-shirt. It won't have my brand on it. It's not a Topher Field T-shirt, okay? but it is specifically, it says, I was there, and has a picture of Parliament House and the date. It's a conversation starter. You can keep it as a keepsake to say, as proof, yes, I was there. But also, when people see it, some people will be like, what's that about? Where were you? What's that building? And it gives you the opportunity, it opens the conversation for you to be able to tell them the truth about what's happened on the streets of Melbourne. And that all of the proceeds of that T-shirt go to recouping the costs. My balls are already on the line. The money's gone out of my bank account, right? My balls are on the line here. It's come out of my family savings. We need to recoup that. And then anything on top of what I've spent on this protest is going to become a kitty, a fighting fund to then spend on the future protests that are coming up. And I can tell you there's going to be more up until at least the 15th of December. And then on the 16th of December, there's going to be a big kick-ass street party if the state of emergency ends and there's no new legislation taking its place. And if there is new legislation taking its place, well, you can be sure that that's not the end of the fight. There are going to be more events happening. Maybe it'll go quiet over Christmas, New Year, but come January, come February, things are going to have to kick into gear again in order to continue this fight. So that's what this is about. Yes, Marnie, it is definitely about this as well. So please help me out. And if you can help to spread the word about the T-shirts, if you can come half an hour early, 11:30, come to the truck that is where the stage is. It's around about the intersection of Spring Street and Flinders Lane, right? Around about there, you'll see a couple of trucks there. That's where the sound system is going to be. At 11:30, I'm going to be next to that truck somewhere, and I'll be handing out these flyers that need to get distributed through the entire crowd so that they know about the T-shirts, and when they get home, they can buy them. They will be available for 24 hours only, from midday on Saturday to midday on Sunday, strictly limited edition. And those T-shirts will be going towards paying for the sound system, and then in future paying for sound systems, for portaloos, for other logistical stuff that's needed in this fight as we go forward. So that's a really, really big thing that you can do to make a difference, in addition to taking the photos, taking the videos, and putting them online. So after all of that, that's kind of what I needed to get through tonight, to give you perspective on what this Saturday is. It's crucial. You need to be there. You need to get as many other people there as possible. This is a numbers game. We just need the numbers on the ground, and we need the photographs and the videos going viral on social media, proving the numbers, proving how many people were there. Okay. Now, I'm going to start looking through the comments, and particularly the new comments. So if you've got questions for me, now's the time. Throw them in to the chat, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook, doesn't matter. They'll pop up inside StreamYard, which is the platform I'm using to do this. And I'll answer whatever questions I believe I actually have a meaningful answer for. I will. If I don't believe I have an answer to a question, then I will either bring it up and say, hey, actually, I can't answer that, or I'll just let it pass me by. So if you do have a question, if there's anything you'd like to know, ask the question. And we'll see whether I actually know the answer or not. Denise, no, I believe the plan I know the plan this time is to go from Parliament House to Treasury Gardens, which is not very far, which is great, because I've invited my parents to come along, because my mum can't march from Parliament to Flagstaff. It's too far, but she can get from Parliament to the Treasury Gardens. No, Marnie, it's going to be online, all online. I thought about it, but the logistics of trying to take payments and everything else, it was just going to turn into a nightmare. And there was too much chance that people were going to pay for shirts there and then not be able to get them off the website, or forget to get them off the website, or it just had too much opportunity to turn into a nightmare. So I've decided, no, we're going to hand out flyers that give people the instructions, and people can go online and purchase them directly off the supplier. So it's all out of my hands. It's all being done through their normal payment system, which we know works. It's how I've been selling these T-shirts. We know it works. Brad, who owns the company, does a wonderful job. He's got great customer service, looks after everybody, and all of it being in his hands is just a good result for me. Steve, thank you. I've got mates in Ballarat, so I might end up crashing with them. At this moment in time, it is my intention to be there in Ballarat on the 4th. So the plan on the 4th, let me talk about, because I've talked about this coming Saturday, let me talk about the following Saturday. It's being organised by yet another group of organisers that have been doing great work over the last 18 months. They've got that Saturday the 4th, that's their day. and they're actually organising a convoy to drive from Melbourne to Ballarat in honour of the Eureka Stockade. So the 4th of December, which happens to be a Saturday this year, is the anniversary of the Eureka Stockade, 1854. 4th of December, 1854. And so driving out to Ballarat, I think it's a wonderful piece of symbolism. And it is my intention to be there at this point in time. I've got to figure out logistics with kids and family and everything else. But I think it's too important. And yes, I absolutely do plan to be there. That answers your question as well, Franny. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I will certainly be uploading about the t-shirt online. But keep in mind, like the main focus of the t-shirt is that it's bought by the people who were there. Like it says, I was there. So I'm not really wanting it to go massively viral online, to be honest. I kind of want it to be one of those things that you only have if you were there. So it's about the physical flyers being handed out on the day. And that's where I really need people's help to make that happen. Rukshan needs reliable internet, as do other streamers. Will the stage have some kind of fixed internet or Wi-Fi access? You know what, Chuck? That is a brilliant idea. That is because you're absolutely right. We need these people that have the big audiences to have access to a better data stream. I would need to talk to people who understand this stuff better than I do to know what's possible, because sure, we can set up a Wi-Fi router or whatever, but if that is then in turn going through the 4G system, then it's going to have the same problem. So I'd need to have a chat with people that know this stuff better than I do to know what's possible. But that is a worthy idea for putting budget for future protests. If I've got excess budget, that's a great idea. It's one of the things that I will definitely look at spending some money on for future protests, to make sure that he can stream, and a few other key people that have the audiences that they can stream. That's a fantastic idea. Benjamin, the march, I think, I'm not sure. I've been mostly texting, and texts can be ambiguous. I'm not sure if they're going straight down from Parliament House into the Treasury Gardens, or if they're going to kind of go around the back way and into the back of the Treasury Gardens. I'm not 100% sure. But hey, just be there on the day and we'll all find out together. Yes, we have very, very big sizes. We have, I believe, up to 4 or even 5 extra large. So yeah, whatever size you need. Whoa, no, don't unravel. Oh no, I'm taking the label off my cigar and it just took a whole bunch of the tobacco with it, which is a little bit tragic, but that's okay. It hasn't broken anything. So yes, whatever your size, we should have a size big enough for you. Cam, fundraising idea: a celebratory TOFA recommended by Dan cigar and a matching peaty whiskey in a kit. I would have to talk to some people about organizing that. But you know what? It's not the worst idea I've ever heard. It's certainly on brand. Let's be honest, it's on brand for me. So Daniel, my understanding is that there's going to be a gathering in Melbourne on December 4th in cars, and then driving as a convoy out to Ballarat. I would expect the traffic to be pretty bad, and I don't actually know yet what the plan is once we get there. I'm going to learn all of that in next week. I'm completely buried in this week at the moment, so I'll learn the answers to those questions later. My missus wants to know if you can do some t-shirts in pink. You know what? Tell your missus, I will work on it. I will work on that. I don't know if my supplier is in Horsham. I don't know whether he has any pink t-shirts in stock right now, but I'm going to be sexist and say we will get some ladies' pink t-shirts available with some prints on them, probably only a small number just in case. But if she's going to buy one, you know what? You asked, I will answer. Sky Ads, thank you for all your work, by the way, mate. You are an absolute champion. They deliver very quickly. They do. Brad, he prints usually the same day. If you order a t-shirt, he prints the same day. He probably won't be able to for these ones because just the number that will sell, hopefully, all going well. Otherwise, I'm in serious trouble. The number of t-shirts that will hopefully sell it'll take him a couple of days to print those, but he ships, under normal circumstances, he ships oftentimes the same day. He prints it custom. When you order it, he prints it, and then it's in the mail usually the same day. Road trip to Ballarat, 100%. Convoy Melbourne to Ballarat, looking forward to it. What do I think of David Limbrick running for a federal Senate seat? So this was some big news from today. The Liberal Democrats have announced their Senate ticket for the federal election. So the next election coming up from a Victorian perspective is the federal election. coming up somewhere between, most likely between March and May of next year. That's when it's kind of expected to happen. And they've announced a really, really impressive lineup of Senate candidates. Their number one Senate candidate is David Limbrick, who you would all know as a member of the Upper House Legislative Council. I always get the Legislative Assembly and the Legislative Council mixed up, but it's he's a member of the Legislative Council, and he's been fantastic. Him and Tim Coulty from the Liberal Democrats. They've been the best out of everybody. There's a few others that have come good, but they were good from earlier than anybody else, and they've been really, really outspoken and really, really principled in their stand on this stuff. So David Limbrick has put his hand up and said, okay, I'm willing to be the lead Senate candidate for the federal Senate for a Victorian Senate seat into the federal Senate. And I think that's a really, really good move. He's got experience. He's got life experience, but now he's also got political experience. And therefore, I think he is absolutely the right person for that job. Second on their Senate ticket, and second is unlikely to get their seat. It would take a pretty amazing election result for the second person on the LDP Senate ticket to actually get their seat, but I hope she does because it's Crystal Mitchell. This is what happens when I don't have whiskey. My throat gets dry. Right. Crystal Mitchell, former Victoria Police officer. I don't remember if it was 15 years or 12 years, but a long time, well over a decade in Victoria Police. She's someone who understands corporate environments and all that sort of stuff, which is important. If you're going to be a politician, you've got to be able to survive in those environments. And I absolutely know that she will do really well. And then third on the Senate ticket, which again is even less likely to actually get the seat, but another really strong candidate. I don't remember her first name. Her last name is White, but I don't remember her first name. And she's a small business owner. She owns a dance studio, and her business was absolutely smashed by all the restrictions and lockdowns, etc. She's been quite public about that. She actually organized a protest of her own at one point in time. So she's been really in this fight. She's got really good principles. She's very much on board, and she has put her hand up to be the number 3 Senate candidate for the Liberal Democrats as well. So really big day for the Liberal Democrats, which is really, really exciting. For those of you that don't know, the Liberal Democrats and the Liberal Party are two entirely different things. So please don't confuse them. The Liberal Democrats, yes, it's unfortunate, their name is quite similar, but the Liberal Democrats are a principled, freedom-oriented party. And they are what the Liberals were supposed to be when Robert Menzies invented them. When Robert Menzies founded the Liberal Party, he gave an incredible speech and he laid out the principles of that party. The Liberal Party have abandoned those principles and are not standing up for those principles at all. But actually the Liberal Democratic Party, the Liberal Democrats, they are the ones really that are actually filling that void now. So really big day for them. Really, really excited about their lineup for the Senate. Okay. How can people help protesters behind the scenes? What I would say, just at a really practical level, if you show up over-prepared, then you can help people around you. If you have more water with you than you will need, then you can share that and you can support others who maybe came underprepared. Maybe bring some packets of nibblies and chips. Bring a big bag to collect rubbish in. This is a big thing, right? This is something that really peeves me off. When we see whether it's Occupy Wall Street or various other groups get together and they have some sort of a protest and then they walk away and they leave an absolute dump behind, rubbish everywhere. You know what? Bring a big rubbish bag, like one of those like supermarket rubbish bags with the pull ties. Gather up your rubbish, make it available to everybody else's rubbish, and then tie it up and leave it next to the bins because the bins are going to be overflowing. There's going to be too many people. All right. Leave your bag of rubbish next to the bins for the council to collect when they come along. All right. So that way there's no rubbish left lying around. All right. Take it home with you if you want to. But at the very least, if you can bring rubbish bags with you and become someone that actually helps to clean up after ourselves, I think that sets a really good example and says really good things about who we are. So being over-prepared, come along, be over-prepared, have water, have snacks, have an ability to help people dispose of rubbish. Those are really important things. And that's one of the ways that you can really help. So Topher, I will not be online within 24 hours. Have fibro. I assume you mean fibromyalgia, and if you do, then my condolences. That sucks. I've got a couple of friends that have that. Can't order online. Can you just send a message to the TOFA page? I'll get more details from you of what you mean by that. So just send a message to the TOFA Field Facebook page. Let's have a chat. Oh, you're on YouTube. Send an email to topher@tofafield.net. topher@tofafield.net. Send me an email and let's chat about that. I'll figure out what your needs are and we'll facilitate that somehow. Grace, I assume in reply to the request for a pink t-shirt, says, tell your missus that black is slimming. I like black. It is slimming. Every time I put a white t-shirt on now, my man boobs show, so I always wear black now. Justin, that's very kind. Thank you. If you want a shirt, buy one of the others from TOFA. So sure, if you do choose to buy any of these other ones, this goes directly to me. This helps me to pay my bills and to pay the team that I've built in the last couple of months that are now helping me to do more. And you'll see you're already seeing some of the product of their work, the clips from the slow chats going out, the quotes going out, various other content going out, the very fact that the t-shirts exist, the branding, etc. None of that existed a few months ago. This is the product of my team's work. And whenever you buy a t-shirt, that helps me to be able to keep paying them to keep doing what they're doing. And we've got some pretty big plans for the future. So anything that you can do would be really appreciated. That's a great question, Daniel. Will there be a protest in Melbourne before the drive to Ballarat? I have no idea. These are questions that I will find the answers to on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of next week. Right now, Saturday is my focus. Craig says last weekend 5G was fast. I was really confused because I've got a fairly new phone. I mentioned a little while ago that someone had donated to help me buy a new laptop and a new GoPro, and I also bought a new phone. It only partly funded that, but I was able to make up the difference and bought a new phone because my other one was 4 years old. And it's supposed to be 5G, and it never switched across to the 5G network. So I've got to try and figure that out because it is supposed to be 5G capable, but I'm not quite sure what happened there. But anyway, but yes, I heard the same thing. Anyone that was on 5G was still getting really good reception and really good coverage last week. Starlink internet. Yes, I'm looking forward to that. Believe it or not, I'm looking forward to Starlink. Yes, we could request that people don't do that. But the reality is when you've got that many people there, people are going to do their own thing. And we just have to work with that, I think. Susie, I'm going to assume that's a joke, in which case, yes, very good. We need more waxed people with 5G reception built in. And I believe, according to some of the videos that I saw, that you can use them to hold fridge magnets and things as well. So very, very useful people, those people. There was a lady there and her stream was amazingly clear. I'm going to guess she was probably on 5G, but we'll find out. I better get my hands on a flyer. I want to. Well, you better get to the protest then, Gary. G. Internet dongle. Well, by the sounds of it, if we can get an internet dongle for 5G and set that up as a Wi-Fi for people like Rukshan and others, then that could work. But again, I need to talk to people who know this stuff better than I do. Can I advise people to start charging their video and camera batteries today? Yes, start charging your video and camera batteries today. Done. Well, that depends on whether it's a blue or a red swallow. Or now I'm actually mixing my metaphors. I'm mixing my Monty Python jokes now because I'm pretty sure it was meant to be red and blue finch. I haven't watched Monty Python for too long. You've caught me out. You've caught me out. I'm not up to date with my Monty Python. Well, okay, up to date. I haven't done anything new for decades. How can you not be up to date? I'm forgetting my Monty Python. I will have to watch some more. Kirsten says there's not a QR code on the flyer for the shirts, is it? Well, you know what? There probably will be a QR code on the shirts. Understand this. A QR code is just an updated version of a barcode. That's all it is. Now, yes, they've been used and they're associated now very heavily with the check-ins and the government surveillance of people and wanting to know all your movements and everything else, and that's not a good thing. But the QR code as a technology in and of itself is not inherently evil. Anyone that wants to can scan it with the phone and immediately go to the website. Instead of having to type in the URL, it just takes them to that website, right? So QR codes are not inherently evil. There will be almost certainly, my designer's working on it tonight. I'll see it after the show. And yes, I believe that there will be a QR code as well as a URL. So you can type in the URL yourself, or you can scan the QR code. They both go to the same place and do the same thing. I'm being very encouraged with a number of stories that I'm hearing of businesses that aren't segregating. And whether they've made that as a principled decision or whether that's just the reality of business, because as Aaron points out here, most businesses don't want to police everyone as it increases the cost, extra time and staff. It also increases conflict, and no one wants that. Just to check the rubbish, I can't see many people keeping it. There's a lot of people that aren't actually abiding by it already, which is really, really nice. We're coming from 300 kilometers away, so we may just meet you at Ballarat. Where's the location? I don't know yet, but I will do another slow chat next week. I think it's going to be necessary on the Thursday, and I'll be posting as well. So that location should be well and truly public. Ishna says, at Topher Field, please make a singlet for me. Give my children's future back. Your wish is my command. If you could send that in a message to the Topher Field page or as an email to topher@topherfield.net, I will get my designer to make one. Another vote for pink. So Kylie Bartlett apparently was the name of the person who had a really good stream. Okay, good. If anyone knows Kylie, please ask her to get in touch with me. I want to find out what she's doing so that we can potentially set up something, a 5G dongle with a Wi-Fi network attached that people like Rukshan and others can then piggyback on. Can we expect to see any MPs on the stage on Saturday? I actually don't know who's speaking. I am. They've invited me to speak, which I always appreciate. More votes for pink. Okay, all right. I will have to do some pink. But in terms of MPs on the stage, I actually don't know. More votes for pink. Goodness me. Okay, all right, fine. I'll do pink. Okay, fine. Stop bullying me. Stop pressuring me. I'll do one. Sky Ads is doing great work. You're absolutely right. The CAF website have a whole hate article on me, apparently. They literally plot things against you. Does that worry you? I'm worried for you. Not really. I didn't even know. My first experience of this was when I did a thing called the 50 to 1 project many years ago. And someone actually set up an entire website, a brand new website, registered a URL, paid for a URL, and set up a website to do a takedown on me. It's noise. It's just noise. You can't do what I do without attracting haters. And that reminds me, there was a comment earlier that I said I'd talk about later. So let me talk about that. And it relates to this as well. It is not possible to express an opinion on the internet and not have somebody hate you for it. It's not possible. Let me give you an example. This is the last of the whiskey that I have in the house. RIP whiskey. It's a tragic day. I don't even know how I did this to myself, but I've managed to run out of whiskey. That's it. Those are the last drops. Sad day. So let me give you an example. I could post online and say, I like kittens. What could be wrong with that? How could anybody be offended with the statement, I like kittens? Well, if enough people saw that, sooner or later, someone's going to come along and say, oh, you shouldn't be having animals as pets. That's a completely immoral way to treat animals. They're not pets. They're not playthings. They should be free, right? Sooner or later, someone's going to get upset. Someone's going to come along and go, oh, but do you know what the pet industry does to the mothers? You know, how they treat the breeding mothers of these cats to supply the pet industry. Sooner or later, if enough people see that comment, I like kittens, someone's going to be pissed off with you. Someone's going to get angry. And when you really accept that reality, it kind of reframes things in a really useful way. Because then when haters come along and they're like, oh, you said this thing, instead of sitting there going, oh no, I've upset somebody. Oh no, someone hates me. Instead, you go, oh, there you are. I knew there were going to be haters out there. It doesn't matter what I say. There's going to be haters out there. Thanks for letting me know where you are. Thanks for saying hi. Right? It just kind of reframes it in your head. So no, I'm not that. I don't care. People send me links to stuff and like, oh, have a look at what this person said about you. I don't even click on them. I don't care. It's just noise. You know, if I can quote, I think it's a Winston Churchill quote, who said something along the lines of, I'm going to butcher it, but something along the lines of, so you have enemies? Good. It means you stood for something in your life, right? And that's true. You cannot stand for anything, literally anything, without making enemies. The only people that don't have enemies are the people who are living an incredibly small life, avoiding trouble and always working around the sensitivities of people around them. That's the only way to get through life without having enemies. Well, that's not me. I stand for what I believe to be right. I'm not always right, but I always stand for what I believe to be right. And that means I'm going to have enemies, and that's just par for the course. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't. It did early on, and I had to grow through that and learn through that, and it no longer really bothers me. Meh. I have enemies. Okay. Have fun. Okay. I'm getting a lot of. I don't know if it's one person commenting over and over again, but I've seen lots of people saying, excuse me, that we need caps. Okay. I will put that to my supplier and see whether he has caps. I don't know if he does. Another vote for the pink shirts. Another vote for the pink shirts. Stop with the pink shirts. Yeah, so a suggestion from a friend of Marina's is if traveling by train to the rally on Saturday, I don't know whether the trains will be running. They stopped them last week. I don't know if they're going to do the same this week. Who knows? When stopping at a station or going past a rail crossing, display your posters, flags, and banners at the windows so that people can see the amount of people traveling to the rally. Every bit of attention helps. I don't disagree. There's no harm in that. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, so like I said before, the T-shirts with my supplier who's up in Horsham, he prints usually the same day and dispatches usually on the same day. Then it's in the hands of Ozpost. And Ozpost, they're under the pump at the moment. They are doing the best they can. I legitimately think they're doing the best they can, but they are absolutely under the pump at the moment. So it just, yeah. Well, here's Paul. Says, yes, I've bought from Brad many times. That's the guy who supplies his T-shirts. Brad is amazing. Brilliant customer service, 100%. He is phenomenal. And from my perspective, he takes care of all of that. He sent out a shipment. When the customer got the shirt, it had a weird stain on it that wasn't there when he shipped it. It happened in the shipping somewhere, somehow. And he just immediately printed and shipped another shirt to that person with a reply paid envelope for them to just stick the damaged shirt into and send it back to him. And that was it. The customer didn't pay a cent. They got a new shirt straight away. His customer service really is absolutely amazing. Getting one for every day of the week. Thank you. We've got 2 shirts and looking forward to Saturday. I'm looking forward to saying hi on Saturday. Who the hell is CAF? This is so ironic. This is so ridiculously ironic. They are I think it's coalition. It might be campaign, but I think it's Coalition Against Racism and Fascism. And they are the guys that showed up to try and counter-protest our event on Saturday. And if you've seen the video of Rukshan being abused by these people and seen the images, these are not a multicultural crowd. They are overwhelmingly white, not exclusively, but they are overwhelmingly white, young and heads full of really interesting ideas, and abusing a Sri Lankan immigrant who has become a hero, a cult hero on the streets of Melbourne, a man who is being celebrated by so many Australians, despite his Sri Lankan heritage, right? We're supposed to be the racists, apparently, but despite his Sri Lankan heritage, he's absolutely celebrated. He's being lifted up on people's shoulders and they're chanting his name, and he freaking deserves it, right? And yet he goes to try and do some coverage of a CAF event, the Coalition Against Racism and Fascism, and they're the ones that treat him like dirt. The irony, and they can't see it. They can't see it. My wife will wear a pink one too. All right. I get the message. Have singlets. We're working on singlets. That's the next thing that we're going to be adding to the lineup. All right, Rebecca, you have a 12-seater van, a 12-seater bus. Your challenge is to fill it. Try and make sure that every single seat on that bus is full. Are there going to be kid sizes in the shirts? I spoke to Brad about that today. He does not have very much stock at all of kids' shirts, but he is specifically going to try and stock up with kids' shirts this week. What will happen is if kid sizes are not available this weekend, because I don't believe that it's going to be done. Sorry, when I say this week, I mean this coming week. Sorry. I don't believe he'll have them this weekend, but he's going to try and restock or try and stock with them. So that if you hold off ordering for a couple of days, oh, no, you can't because it's going to close. Damn it. I will talk to Brad. And maybe what we will do is we will sell them even though he doesn't yet have them in stock, if he knows he's going to get them in stock. And you'll just have to accept that your order might take a little bit longer because there'll be a few days delay before he gets the kids' shirts. Let me talk to Brad about that. When you jump on the website to order the shirt, you'll hopefully have kids' sizes available, but just please be patient. He might not have the shirts until, say, Thursday to print and then ship towards the end of the week. But yes, I want to have kids' sizes, and I'm talking with him about that. What's with this pink fetish? Everyone's just jumped on the pink. Yes, indeed. I will vouch for David. Absolutely. If I can do a fluoro shirt for construction workers, we'll wear them up here in Queensland. All right. I'll have to have a chat with Brad about that. I don't know what he's got access to through his supplier, so I'll have a chat with him. This was some other big news that came out this week that I think is really good. UAP and Lib Dems have united with preferences. So preferences work a little bit differently to how they used to. It's no longer a case of the party dictating where the preferences flow. You have to decide where your preferences flow, which I actually think is a good thing. I think that's a good reform to our voting system. But what they've done is they've partnered up so that the UAP how to vote cards will have the Liberal Democrats second. So they'll have UAP first, of course, and they'll have Liberal Democrats second, and vice versa. Liberal Democrats will have themselves first and UAP second. I'm going to talk a lot more about voting preferences, all that stuff, as we approach the election. Right now, we've got these protests. I've got the documentary. That's where my focus is. But as we get closer to the election, I'm going to be talking a lot more about that. But I think this is a really, really good development. Okay. Apparently, according to Alan, I can't verify, but according to Alan, the inside advice for the federal election is April. That's a pretty safe bet. That's right in the middle of the range of where everyone's expecting it to happen. But fair enough. QR codes won't work. A lot of people don't use it. Fair enough. People are free to not use it. The URL will also be there for people to type in if they want to. Will his Twitter be as good as Lionhelm's? Don't know. But then again, David Lionhelm, love the guy, but he got himself into a bit of trouble as well with some of his more edgy sort of stuff. So you got to weigh that up. That's who the number 3 Senate candidate for the Liberal Democrats, Carolyn White. Thank you, Rachel, of the Two Shoes Dance Studio in Flemington, and she's been a gun. So obviously, I must be a long way behind on these comments because that was a little while ago. So I apologize for falling so far behind. But yes, Carolyn White is the number 3 Senate candidate. Okay. Benjamin says the LDP have been getting some amazing candidates. Other parties are getting some nice sizzle, but the LDP have been getting almost all the sausage. Oh, look, I rate some of the other candidates. I'm not going to talk smack about the other candidates, but I think as a party, I resonate with a party that is a freedom-oriented party in principle, not just on certain issues, and then on other issues they're not. They are pro-freedom on all issues, and that's why I align with them as much as I do. I've got a lot of time for the other parties. I think they're doing some very good things in other areas. But if you want a party that is freedom-oriented right across the board, I think the LDP, Liberal Democratic Party, not to be confused with the LNP, the Liberal National Party, the Liberal Democratic Party are I think, the guys. All right. So Ebony says, I'm in Ballarat. I'll hold the fort till you guys get here. Excellent. 100%. So I've told this story once or twice before, so I apologize for those that have heard it. But many years ago, I was invited to speak at a Liberal Party. So this is not the LDP. This is the Liberal Party, a Victorian Liberal Party branch meeting. So the parties are broken up into different branches, and I was invited to speak at one particular branch. And I said to the person that invited me, I said, you're not going to like what I've got to say. And he said, no, you don't understand. I'm going to like it. The others won't, but I've seen your work and I know where you're coming from, and I'm going to like it. So what I did was I got up and I read the speech from Robert Menzies when he founded the Liberal Party. And I read the speech and I simply posed the question. I said, if you were to read the policies of the Liberal Party today, would you think that you were reading the policies of the party that Robert Menzies founded, or the party that Robert Menzies was warning us against? And then I sat down. I had a fantastic conversation with about 3 people afterwards, and no one else wanted to come near me. Needless to say, I did not get invited back. Interesting question. Just off topic for a minute, may I ask, please, do all actors in Australia have to do some sort of ritual to be on TV? Excuse me if I'm being rude, not my intention. Ritual, no. I mean, I've been on TV. I've had some very small bit parts in ABC productions and other things 10 years ago when I was pursuing acting. But it is a very closed shop. If you do not subscribe to the popular politics of the day, sort of the left-leaning popular politics of the day, then it's a closed shop and you don't go anywhere. And I realized 2 things. I abandoned my efforts to be an actor after I realized, number one, I wasn't exactly great. I was okay. I was good enough to hold down a supporting role, but I wasn't going to get lead roles. My teeth are terrible, always have been. I grew up in a family where we didn't have money for dentists, and I've never had the money since to do anything with my teeth. And that, unfortunately, in such a shallow looks-based industry, that's a pretty big deal. But also, from a talent point of view, I was okay, but I wasn't amazing. And then my politics were all completely wrong. And I had people urging me to, just don't talk about stuff. Just keep your mouth shut. And I'm like, yeah, that's not who I am. That's not how I'm wired. So I realized that industry was a closed shop to me and I wasn't going to go anywhere. So no rituals that I know of, but definitely a closed shop from an ideological point of view. Okay, just going to scroll ahead a little bit because I'm a long way behind. Will you choose any other semi-rural towns to have rallies there? I'm not an organizer, so I don't know. This one is specifically because it is the anniversary of the Eureka Stockade. So that's why they're going to Ballarat specifically. So my gut would be probably not. There is a reason why we're going to Ballarat specifically. I do know that Cafe Locked Out are doing a tour at the moment and they're heading out to a bunch of different semi-rural towns. So go to their Facebook page, Cafe Locked Out. Good guys. And have a look at where they're going and where they're touring because they are heading out in various parts of Victoria. So definitely check them out if that's what you would like to see. Yes. Sunscreen. Good idea. Hannah says sunscreen. So if you're trying to come along and be really well prepared and be able to support other people around you who may not be as prepared as you, sunscreen. Good idea, Hannah. Yes, the Liberal Democratic Party have released their Freedom Manifesto on their website, which I don't actually know what it is off the top of my head, but find the Liberal Democratic Party website and read their Freedom Manifesto. It's pretty damn good. Okay. So Marnie says that she gave Band-Aids, earplugs, and bickies to people. Good idea. Topher's wife looked at the bank statement. She said, I'm soft. Spend 20 grand. Look, I got a good one. My wife's amazing. But I don't know that she's going to necessarily want me to go any deeper than I already am on this sound system. Bring food, bags, and adult nappies. Yeah, maybe not the worst idea. Okay. Will we ever see a slow chat with George Christensen? I've already done one. Go through my back catalogue. I'm just seeing now, I'm getting a warning that my internet is slow. So I apologize if my internet is breaking up. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. So Nobody Productions, if you go back into my back catalogue on both YouTube or Facebook, you will find that I did. And in fact, I believe George Christensen still holds the record to this day for the longest slow chat in history. We went until very close to midnight or just after midnight. I don't recall. But we went for nearly 4 hours. It was a really, really good chat. I had a lot of fun. I like to have a drink while I watch the streams. How about a stubby holder? I wasn't there, but I watched it live. Look, I've had a few requests for stubby holders. It's not a difficult thing for me to do, so I'll have a chat with Brad about getting some stubby holders done. I don't know about that one specifically, but I'll have a chat with Brad. Okay, so Ebony is giving a bit more detail about Saturday, the 4th of December. So that's not this coming Saturday, the Saturday after. I don't think they've announced. I presume that's their location. I've got a pretty good idea. The Eureka Stockade, I would assume. Convoy starts at 11 a.m. in Melbourne, and the rally starts at 2 p.m. in Ballarat. And details will come out later. Look, I'm going to be keeping my eye out for the details as well, and I'll make sure I share them with everybody on the page. Okay. Topher, that's the third time you've missed the ashtray. You're not even drinking. See, here's the thing. Here's something that a lot of people don't understand about cigars. You don't actually want the ash to come off. Every time the ash drops, it changes the flavor, and not usually in a good way, for a couple of puffs until that ash builds up again. So I've simply taken the approach in my cigar smoking that when I smoke a cigar, I get ash on myself. And then when I go back into the house, I throw the clothes in the wash and I have a shower. Because you don't want to be knocking the ash off if you can help it. You want to keep it on for as long as possible. This particular cigar didn't hold its ash very well. So you're absolutely right. I dropped a bunch of ash on myself. Yeah. So Alan, absolutely most people's phones didn't work last week. How is the doco coming, says Hannah. Oh, excuse me. Coming along well. There's some really good things happening. I've got some amazing stuff happening in terms of music, some songs being written for it, which are kick ass. They are fantastic. I've got a big meeting with my editor on Sunday where we're going to then be taking stock of exactly where we're at. And that's the big day in terms of making a decision of whether we are on track for a 20th of December release day. That's my target. It's been my target all along. And at the moment, we're still okay for that. But that's kind of the decision day for whether or not we postpone that by a week or two. If we have to postpone it, and when I say have to, it's a question of finesse. Like, can I finish the documentary by the 20th of December? Yeah, of course I can. Is it going to be as good as it would be if I gave my team another week or another 2 weeks to work on it? Well, no, of course not. More time is always going to lead to a better product. So it's about balancing speed and trying to get this out as quickly as possible, and ideally before Christmas. I'd love to have it out before Christmas. But ultimately, if I look at it and go, no, that extra week is going to make a big enough difference in terms of the quality. I mean, think about it. An extra week, maybe worst case scenario, another 2 weeks. That's annoying. But in the scheme of things, once this is released, once we actually launch this documentary, and I'm getting another warning about the speed of my internet, so I apologize if I'm breaking up. But once this documentary is released, that's it. For all of time, that's what this documentary is. And I want to make sure that it's as good as it can possibly be. So we'll be making that decision on Sunday. It's coming together really, really well, but we've got some decisions to make around the timing of the release and whether we stick to that release date or whether we push it back by a week or two to allow us to really just finesse it in ways that are going to give it that extra punch that I think it deserves. Okay. There you go. Benjamin has given me some tech advice. I appreciate that. I might need a new SIM card to get 5G. Speak to your service provider. That's actually a really good point because I'm using the same SIM card from my 4-year-old phone. Good point. I will look into that. Starlink is limited in little geographical zones for now. It should be global within what was it Elon Musk saying? I think by the end of next year, I think it's meant to have coverage up to about 70 degrees of north and south. Should have global coverage by around about then. Can I advise people to become a member of the LDP? Look, I don't think I can really advise people on anything. People can make up their own minds. I'm certainly in their corner. I'm a big supporter of the LDP. I'm not a member of any political party, but I'm thinking I'm probably going to change that before the federal election. I think I will become a financial member of the LDP. If anyone's thinking about it, I would encourage you to go ahead and do it. Give them your money. Give them the legitimacy that comes from having more paid members of their party. Give them all the support that you can. Volunteer to stand at polling booths and hand out how to vote cards, all that stuff. All those things, they seem small, but they add up and they make a difference. So I'm very much in their corner. I can't really advise people on what they should do. You should do what your conscience directs you to do. Take some power banks, yes, so that your phone does not run out of batteries. When are they voting on the bill? This is a good question because it's not necessarily a fixed thing. The government will only bring the bill in to the upper house if they think they've got, or they'll only push it through to a vote if they think they've got the numbers to get it done. When that happens, it goes into a thing called committee. And I'm not great on this stuff. Emily from Voice of Victoria is better on this detailed stuff than what I am. So if you really want to be across the detail of how all this stuff works, find Voice of Victoria, the Facebook page. And Emily from Voice of Victoria does a really good job of covering the details, the minutiae of how this works. But my understanding is it'll go into a thing called committee, which is where MPs can ask questions, and they sort of go through the whole piece of legislation, asking questions, proposing amendments, that sort of stuff. And how long that takes is really unknown. It can take a very long time, or it could just be waved through and no one's got questions, no one's got amendments, and that's it. It just goes straight to a vote. So it can happen very quickly, or it might take days of wrangling before it gets to a vote. And there's no real way of knowing. To my knowledge, there's no real way of knowing in advance. However, this coming week, is the expectation. So this is the last sitting week of Parliament before the end of the state of emergency. So the state of emergency ends on the 15th of December. They cannot extend it. Daniel Andrews is trying to give himself these powers before that happens. And our job and the purpose of Saturday is to try and make sure that crossbenchers do not support him in that effort and that he ends up not being able to pass anything before the expiry of the state of emergency. Nikki says, where did you say you were given the pamphlets from? 11:30. I will be near the truck, which is where the sound system is being set up, near the intersection of Flinders Lane and Spring Street at 11:30 to hand out flyers for those who want to help distribute those. Hannah, I agree. What a great community of people here helping and making great suggestions. 100%. You guys are amazing. And I find myself sometimes just sitting back and just going, how the hell did this happen? Like, I'm surrounded by amazing people in my life, in real life, but also in my tribe online. You guys are incredible, and I really appreciate you. And Hannah, you're absolutely spot on. Does the study stink of cigar, and do you vacuum your own dropped ash? Well, actually, I'm in the garage. Hey, and it can just get swept out easily enough. Are there any special guests? I don't know. I don't know who else is there. Honestly, I'm not an organizer. If they invite me to speak, I'll come and speak, and they have for this Saturday. If they don't invite me to speak, I'll just show up and support and stream if I can and take photos and just be a part of the crowd and a part of the atmosphere. So I actually don't know. Yes, governments have destroyed the reputation of QR codes. They have. But don't get freaked out when you see a QR code. It's just a modern version of a barcode. That's all it is. With police drones last Saturday, there was a mix. There were a lot of private drones flying around. I saw people just getting footage and flying their own drones around. But yeah, there are always police drones hovering high up overhead, surveilling these events. It's just a given. There always are. Okay. Always look on the bright side of life. Okay. What software am I using? I'm using a thing called StreamYard. Simple to use, easy for a numpty like me. Does a good job. I haven't had any problems with it. Thanks, Money. Yes, rain, hail, or whatever, be there. Just be there. It is going to be amazing. Okay, Steve is saying that it's going to be at Civic Hall in Ballarat. So this is not this coming week. This is the Saturday after, Saturday the 4th of December. Apparently at Civic Hall at 2 p.m. Okay. Someone asked about singlets earlier. Grace says, cut the sleeves off. Yeah, it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same. Michael Kroger has apparently said the federal election will be in April. Okay, interesting. Women's tees don't go large enough. Okay, I'll give that feedback to Brad and let him know. So Julie, no, the shirts are not made in Australia. Unfortunately, that then just pushes me up into another price bracket. And there are some people out there that are trying to sell their branded t-shirts for like 60 and 70 bucks. And I'm not okay with that. But also, as a genuine capitalist, not a corporatist, but as a genuine capitalist, I look at it and say, if somewhere like Bangladesh, if somewhere like Haiti, which is where these t-shirts come from, they don't come from China. If they can do something cheaper than we can do it, it makes sense for us to pay them to do that thing. And then there are other things that we can do better or cheaper or whatever than they can do. And it makes sense for them to pay us for those things. I 100% like the idea of supporting Australian businesses. I have, it's a rural Victorian business, a business in Horsham, are the ones that do all of the printing and all of the handling of all of my t-shirts, etc. But I'm not a jingoist. I'm not one of these people who says, oh, we shouldn't be buying from overseas. Well, hang on. If they have a competitive advantage and because of their labor costs, their power costs, their input costs, they can do something for us for less than we can do it for ourselves, it makes sense for us to leverage that. And so people ask me why I'm not necessarily 100% on board with someone like One Nation or UAP or these sorts of parties, and this is why. I was having a chat with Senator Malcolm Roberts, I don't know, probably a month or more ago now, and they were talking about their desire to apply taxes, extra taxes to multinationals and to make sure that they're paying their fair share of taxes in Australia, as they would see it. And their approach to that is to try and raise taxes on multinationals. And my approach to that is to say, well, hang on, if multinationals are able to get away with paying less tax than Australian companies, how about we lower tax on Australian companies? I'm all on board the idea of parity and a level playing field, and the government not creating an uneven playing field. But how about we do that by lowering taxes and lowering input costs? Let's reduce the cost of power. Let's reduce the cost of living so that we can manufacture more cost effectively on the international stage. So they're printed in Australia, they're made overseas, and I don't really have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with supporting whichever source is able to do things more cost effectively. I think they get it. They get my business. Yes, I have a lot of votes for pink. Okay, apparently John Murphy is going to be speaking. Fantastic. So he got a very brief spot to speak last Saturday, and fantastic what he said. And good to hear. He'll be speaking again apparently today. Good people do not enforce bad laws. Yes, indeed. Yes, so my understanding from Brad is that the t-shirts are made in either Bangladesh or in Haiti, and they are printed in Horsham in Victoria. I want a pink t-shirt and hoodie. Goodness, now I've got to do pink hoodies as well. Goodness. Okay, there's a few questions here that I don't really have answers to, so I'm just kind of skipping past them. What is the barrel behind me? This thing here. That is actually from a good friend of mine, whose name I won't mention. Actually, was that from my father-in-law? Goodness, I don't even remember now. But it was a port barrel. It came with, I think, 5 liters or a couple of liters of port in it. It was empty when I got it, but it's just a nice little decorative piece. Yeah, this is the reality. When you do what I do, you put yourself out there publicly. Some people love you, some people hate you, whatever. I'll have a drink of Tia Maria and Coke to mourn the loss of my last plonk. It's the least I can do. There you go. Thank you. It means a lot to me. New t-shirt idea. I like kittens. Yeah. Yeah, Victor Hugo, you have enemies. Why? It is the story of every man who has done a great deed or created a new idea. Yeah, it's just unfortunate reality. Perception of another is not my or your business. Yep, 100%. Do I think people are blowing this calf situation out of proportion? 100%. 100%. Where were they on Saturday? Now, credit to the police. The police were there and they made sure that the calf sort of group stayed separate and made sure that they weren't able to, cause any trouble. But absolutely, I think they're blowing it massively out of proportion. CAF are classic of this kind of hard left sort of ideology where they're incredibly brave when they have the numbers, but the minute it's a fair fight, they kind of go into their shell. It's always quite interesting to watch. And when we've got hundreds of thousands of people showing up, CAF are not going to cause trouble, not with the whole group anyway, right? They might try and pick off isolated people or what have you. So it's always good to stay with the main group. But no, they're not going to cause trouble when they're massively outnumbered, and and we're not going to cause trouble because that's not in our nature. That's not what we're there for. So no, I don't. I really don't expect trouble. I just don't see it happening. I've never had a kitten. What do they taste like? Okay, so Benjamin is correcting me based on that quote from Victor Hugo earlier. It has been incorrectly attributed to Churchill. That quote that I gave, it was actually Victor Hugo 30 years prior. Yep, there you go. It's always nice to learn the people's heads you have a second home in rent free. Yeah, I live in a lot of people's heads. It's quite funny. Yes, I'm not prejudiced. I don't like everybody equally. Yes. Very true. 100%. Look up the minor parties. Just make sure that you are voting for all the minor parties that are in any way freedom friendly before you vote for any of the major parties. I see a bottle of Galway Pipe behind you. That is my favorite tawny port. There's some really good Rutherglen tawny ports as well, but the Galway Pipe is my personal favorite. Any plans for low budget TV to counter the mainstream media? This is something that floats around in the back of my brain from time to time. The reality is that's a really hard slog. It is. It's a really hard slog. If I'm going to do something like that, it can't look like it's coming out of someone's garage. It can't look like this, right? So then there's certain sort of production quality expectations, and then just producing the content, just actually coming up with 24 hours of content a day and actually making it good and meaningful content and not just filling in time. Like when you listen to a lot of, for example, talk show hosts, they have to fill a couple of hours a day, every single day of the, 5 days a week. They have to fill that time. And so they end up with a little bit of good stuff that deserved the coverage and then a whole bunch of rubbish that didn't deserve the coverage. And that's always been my concern as people have talked to me about different ideas. And, we could do this, we could do that. Well, yes, we could. Starting it is not the hard part. Sustaining it and making it good is the hard part. So I don't think I'm ready for that yet. I'm not sure that Australia is ready for that yet, although that is changing very, very quickly. So I'm not going to say no, but not yet. Not yet. It's certainly not from me. Not yet. I can't do a good enough job of that. Lots more votes for pink. Lots of votes for hats. Okay. I get it. Pink and hats. And hey, pink hats. Why not? Okay. Yeah, if you don't run into opposition once in a while, are you even going in the right direction? More votes for pink kids t-shirts. Plan B caps. Okay. So GT says the Pakenham line is not running. Okay. Good to know. Now, this is a question you've asked a couple of times, Lisa, and I've scrolled past it because I don't actually know what you're referencing. I'm out of touch with whatever that is, so I'm sorry. I don't have an answer for that. No, Iris, they both Facebook and YouTube comments scroll up together with me here, but I miss most comments because they're just coming in too fast. So I'm sorry. And it's not that I'm actually even trying to balance. It's just they're scrolling past me. They're literally just jumping past me, and the ones that I catch, the ones that I see, are the ones that I catch. Okay. I purchased 5 shirts on Tuesday. I haven't heard anything. Is that normal? No, that's not, Brian. I'll touch base with Brad. I'll send him a message when I'm done and let him know because that's unusual. He's usually really fast. So I'll touch base with him on that. Aussies need stubby holders. Avi was abused by a calf as well. Yeah. Okay, there's a tip from Michelle. If driving in, pre-book parking with Wilson, most are $8 flat rate when booked online. There you go. Melissa, how about red shirts? Too soon? Yeah, Rukshan, worldwide reach, fantastic. He single-handedly turned the tide. It was I mean, no disrespect to everybody else involved, but somehow he just hit that zeitgeist. His stream took off, and he single-handedly changed how the media had to report on us, and turned the tide in a really amazing way. Yeah, so this is the mystifying thing about CAF. They call themselves anti-fascists, but they're supporting Daniel Andrews, who's the closest thing to a fascist that we've seen in Australia. So, yeah. Can we get a "Wish I was there" or "I was there in spirit" type shirt for those of us who can't get to the protest? I'm not going to try and make that happen before Saturday, but it's not a bad idea. Maybe for future ones. Can we have a dance party at night? Look, if the emergency powers expire on the 15th of December, which is a Wednesday, so on Thursday they will have expired on the 16th of December, I reckon we need to have a massive dance party on the Thursday or maybe on the Saturday. I don't know, but we just need to get into the city and just have a massive party to celebrate and to show the world that, because some people are going to turn it into a catastrophe. Oh no, the emergency powers have ended. Now the virus is going to kill us all. And we need to have a massive party to show that actually there's a lot of people that are very, very happy about the end of those emergency powers. Oh, goodness. Hannah's trying to fill a 57-seater. Good luck. Good work. Love it. Okay, Iris. Okay, fine. You can stop posting. Right. Iris has posted that comment I don't know how many times, trying to get my attention. All right, fine. There it is. Pink t-shirt, hoodie, and cap. Pink knickers, too far. I'm not going into knickers. I'm sorry. It's not. That's not where my product line is going. Okay, I came in a bit late trying to figure out what's happening re Ballarat. There's going to be lots more information about that on my page early next week. Right now, I'm focused on this Saturday and making that the biggest success that we can. Okay, where do I order t-shirts? Let me answer that now. If you want to get these sorts of t-shirts, they're available now from AussieBotStudio.com/Topher That should pop up in the comments on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you want to buy these support me. I want to be clear about that. If you want to help with the funding of the sound systems and that sort of stuff, that's a different shirt. Although, I mean, it came out of my bank account, so I guess in a way it kind of is the same thing. But yeah, if you want to buy any of the t-shirts that I've got available, then that would be much appreciated. And we've got a brand new one. Brand new one has launched tonight. Let me actually, because this is worth mentioning. So sorry, I'm just jumping on the internet myself. And Topher Fields, there we go. Yes, there they are. Okay, I'm super excited about these. Let me share this link, share this page with you. Share screen, window, Chrome tab, that one. Share that one. All right, what are we at? There we go. Okay, so that is an image from the AussieBot website. This is a shirt that you will have seen at the protests, or you will have seen, I don't know, a couple of days ago. I posted the guy. There's an artist by the name of William, and he designed that, and he had it on a placard as well as on his shirt. This is officially licensed with William. It's got his signature on it, and we are profit splitting. So half of the proceeds of this shirt go to William and half go to me if you want this shirt. So it's three faces, Hitler, Kim Jong-un, and then Daniel Andrews. And it's just brilliant. And then on the back, it has a URL. It has, it shows, oops, hang on, let me just go here and show that. Yeah, so on the back, it shows stellarrevolution.com.au, which is William's website. So if you want to support William and myself at the same time and get what I think is a really funny kick-ass shirt, it's only available as a white shirt with black print because that's how we think it looks best, and that's how William did it in the first place. He got a white t-shirt and he hand drew this. This is hand drawn by William. We've then taken a photo of that and turned it into this print And so if you want that one, go to the URL that I posted just a second ago. And in fact, I'll post the direct URL to this shirt as well. I'll just copy and paste that. It's super cool. And I'm super excited because this is the first shirt that is a collaboration between me and somebody else, which is super exciting. I've got more coming, by the way. I've got a collaboration between myself and Craig Backman. So if you want a shirt that says you're going to need a bigger camp, asshole, that's coming soon. But this one here, super excited about this. Awesome, awesome, clean design. It's just that the brilliance of an artist is in being able to take a big idea and distill it down to something that you look at and you instantly get. And that's what he's done with this shirt. I think it's just absolutely brilliant. I rate it. And I'll definitely be getting myself one of those. So Benjamin has just said, check the cross-referenced URL. I'm not sure what that means. It's broken on the Aussie Bot Studio website. I'm not quite sure what that means. So if you can give me some more info on that, that would be good. The podcast of his speech was awesome. We were too far away to hear on the day. Stan, thank you. But also, we should be fixing that this week. Hopefully this time we've got a big enough sound system. But then again, if the crowd grows by as much as it did last protest, then it still won't be big enough. I need the bigger camp T-shirt in my life. Rebecca, I agree. Craig Backman, it was just something he said off the cuff while he was giving a speech at Parliament. You're going to need a bigger camp, asshole. Yeah, it was a great moment, and we've got a T-shirt. So again, that's officially licensed in partnership with Craig Backman. And so this is exciting for me, sort of seeing this kind of, I don't even know what it is, but this brand of clothing, I don't know what you call it, sort of outgrowing me and going beyond just me and actually becoming other amazing people, artists and freedom fighters, and slowly becoming, I don't know what it's going to become, but it's just outgrowing me. And that feels really awesome. I really like that. And I'm so grateful to be surrounded by great people that have these sorts of things. It says, get this domain. That's interesting. Is anyone else having that problem? Because that's weird. Maybe I misspelled it. Anyway, I need to do a collab with Carl's. Can we please be less shit to each other? Yes. And Carl's is actually my designer. So I've done a slow chat with Carly and gave her an opportunity to tell her story. And I've got a lot of time for Carl's. She's amazing. She does all my designs. She does a great job. Okay. Hannah says, yeah, it didn't work. Okay. So let me instead just go. Sorry, guys, you'll actually hang on. You'll be able to see it this way. There we go. Let me sort that out. So let me go to the homepage of the AussieBotStudio.com website. Let me go to enter the store and then Topher Field. And let me just copy and paste that link, because at least that way I know it's going to work. I might have misspelled it. I probably just fat fingers and got it wrong. There you go. Okay, so that's the URL. He is moving to a faster server. I said, so Marco's just saying, yeah, refresh, the page has trouble loading sometimes. He's got relatively inexpensive hosting at the moment, and apparently you guys have been stressing out his hosting recently, which is great news. But he's actually moving to a dedicated server, I think, this coming week to try and cope with the demand. That's probably why some people are having trouble, is actually the server just isn't really coping with the demand. Okay, so other people are saying the link is working fine. Oh, that link is working fine. So it's Stellar Revolution, I see, as a park domain. Yes, I don't believe he's built his website yet. He's bought it, but I don't believe he's built that Stellar Revolution website yet, but that's coming. Okay. Well, guys, tonight has been a hell of a lot of fun, and I'm always so grateful to you guys for joining me, hanging out with me, giving me an excuse to smoke a cigar and enjoy some downtime, unpack my thoughts. Is really, really appreciated. So all the questions, once again, there's just been so many more questions than I can possibly answer, and I apologize to everyone that I didn't answer or that I just didn't even see. If you could see it from my perspective, they're just scrolling constantly. And it can be, even sometimes I see a comment that I'm like, oh, that's good, I want to answer that, and I'm trying to chase it as it moves up the column of comments. So I do apologize for that, but it's just the reality of how it is. I look forward to seeing you on Saturday. If you want to help me hand out those cards to try and sell the limited edition fundraising T-shirts, all the proceeds go to funding protests. And in the first instance, they go to paying me back for the bit less than 15 grand that I've spent on the sound system for this Saturday. So if you want to help me do that, meet me at the stage, at the sound system, at the trucks where the sound system is being set up near the corner of Flinders Lane and Spring Street at 11:30 this coming Saturday morning. I will give you some cards that you can then help to distribute throughout the crowd. And I really need your help to do that, because if I end up out of pocket 10 grand or 5 grand out of this, not only does that suck for me, but it also means that I don't have money to then go and help the next protest and the one after that, etc. So, and like I said, I'll be doing this with an open book. So I'll be showing you guys how many t-shirts were sold, how much money was raised, what I've spent that money on so far, how much is left over, all that stuff. I'm just going to do it with an open book policy so that you guys can see what's happening with that money. So all of the money from that limited edition t-shirt that will only be for sale for 24 hours goes towards the protests. If you want to support me, then you can do that by buying some of these other shirts. This one's pretty cool. I like this one. Don't make me repeat myself. History, because unfortunately that is exactly what we're doing. So yeah, thank you so much for your company tonight. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope you have too. And I cannot wait to see a massive crowd there on Saturday. It is going to be huge. It's going to be a great day. Make sure you get there. Come over prepared. Come not only with what you need for yourselves, but with things to share with others around you: water, snacks, garbage bags, sunscreen, etc. Maybe, I don't know, some disinfectant and some Band-Aids in case a kid falls over and scratches themselves, all that sort of stuff. Just think ahead and be there to support everyone else that has showed up on that day. It's going to be amazing. If you missed last week, don't miss this one. Don't miss this one. This is going to be huge, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So guys, thank you so much. I'll see you on Saturday. And then as usual, probably on Saturday night, I'll do a debrief here and unpack my thoughts after the day. I'll see you then.